Chapter 34-48. The Satsuma demon forefather was extremely enthusiastic and didn't notice the expressions of those around her. Long Chen was a hero who had saved her life twice. She'd been wondering if she'd have a chance to thank Long Chen back then. Now that she was pleasantly surprised, she couldn't take her eyes off Long Chen. Satsuma demon forefather. Sacred ancestor drought demon reminded demon forefather Satsuma with his dry voice. Only then did demon forefather Satsuma recall that he was on the same team as them. Give me a little more time. Oh no. She suddenly had an idea and asked Long Chen. Are you also looking for the instant magic stone? That's great. Our team isn't full yet. Why don't you join us? Don't worry, I'll protect you. Satsuma great demon ancestor Luiwe was filled with anticipation. His big eyes flickered as he looked at Long Chen pitifully. His gaze was indeed irresistible. However, Long Chen naturally couldn't be with them. No. But the first to speak were the drought demon forefather and the other forefather gods. The drought demon forefather's eyes were cold as he said, Demon forefather, don't make a decision on your own. We've already agreed that for the remaining 3 spots, we'll have to find a 7th-era forefather god that we can team up with. That way, our team will be the strongest. How can you treat this like child's play? His eyes were filled with arrogance. He clearly thought that although Long Chen was famous, he was still a 9th-era forefather god. In terms of strength, he was the weakest in the myriad of worlds. Even the ancestral gods of the 8th era beside him didn't agree to it. The smile on the Satsuma demon forefather's face finally disappeared, replaced by disappointment. Although Long Chen quite liked this fellow, he had more important matters to attend to. He said, I won't join you. After all, I'm used to acting alone. Since both sides were unwilling, the Satsuma demonic ancestor's plan fell through. However, she couldn't bear to part with Long Chen. She had originally thought that the drought demon ancestor wasn't a bad person, but she didn't expect him to reject Long Chen so much. He was no different from those ungrateful creator gods. This made her very unhappy. She suddenly said, if that's the case, then I won't join their team. Long Chen, I'll go with you. I want to find a chance to repay you, so you can't refuse me. Looking at her pitiful appearance, no one would be able to reject her. It would not be a problem if she was the only one following him. After all, she was a primordial ancestor god of the 4th era in the middle of an era. It would be difficult for Long Chen to deal with her. Hearing this, Long Chen didn't say anything, but the drought demon ancestor was enraged. The 8th era forefather gods had ugly expressions on their faces. Among them, the drought demon ancestor said, Demon ancestor, what do you take us for? Our team is not something you can join or leave just because you want to. You don't respect us at all, do you? Seeing his anger, the Satsuma demon ancestor also lost his temper. He said, Then what do you want? In any case, I don't want to follow you. I'm so annoying. All of you are so cold and don't talk to me. You keep making me fight. In truth, the Satsuma demon ancestor wasn't a good match for their team at all. It was just that this fellow was a bit of a fool, thinking that everyone in the world was good. The drought demon ancestor laughed in anger. What do I want? Since you've decided to follow Long Chen, I'll beat you up so you'll remember to take a detour the next time you see me. Indeed, they were dissatisfied with the Satsuma demon ancestor joining and leaving at will. Of course, they'd tricked her into joining their team because she was a bit naive. Long Chen hadn't said anything yet, but their internal strife had already reached this point. Of course, the drought demon ancestor and the others didn't care what Long Chen had to say. In any case, it had nothing to do with them. Right now, they wanted to punish the Satsuma demon ancestor to vent their anger. Of course, the source of their anger was Long Chen, who had abducted the Satsuma demon ancestor. However, they had learned from the mistake of Xueqi. Only Long Chen had the protection of a stronger forefather god, so they didn't involve Long Chen. Damn it! The Satsuma demon ancestor's face was flushed with anger. She'd said all sorts of nice things when she'd first joined their team, but now they'd turned against her immediately. Attack! At the drought demon ancestor's command, a 7th-era forefather god led 5 8th-era forefather gods in attacking the Satsuma demon ancestor. Generally speaking, 5 8th-era forefather gods were a relatively powerful force, and it wouldn't be a problem for them to temporarily surround a 7th-era forefather god. 6 of them ganged up on one. Among them, there were humans and demons. Satsuma demon ancestor Luiwe transformed into her true form in a fit of rage. Sure enough, what appeared before Long Chen was a pure white demon hound, its fur fluttering like snow. Its divine body was even larger than the sun-devouring monstrous wolf's, and it still looked very beautiful. It didn't have much of an aggressive nature, and if it weren't for the fact that Mo Xiaolong's heart already belonged to someone else, it would have been a good match for him. However, even though she was a 7th-era forefather god, she was quickly at a disadvantage against so many opponents, especially the drought demon ancestor's attacks. After all, she had 6 opponents. In front of her, the giant beasts were fighting, and the forefather gods were entangled. As expected of the 7th-era forefather god. From the looks of it, she was indeed much stronger than the nightmare forefather. Things had suddenly escalated to this point, and the cute Satsuma demon ancestor who liked him was being ganged up on. Naturally, Long Chen had to step in. At this moment, the World Origin Massacre appeared in his hand. Grasping it, he transformed into a blood-colored phantom and charged at the 8th-era forefather gods. They were the ones who'd been obstructing the Satsuma demon ancestor, which was why he'd been suppressed by the drought demon ancestor. Shadow of Death. Long Chen used the Shadow of Death to conceal himself, and as he proceeded onward, he unwittingly appeared behind one of the creator gods. It was a creator god from the 8th era. Bloodwheel Sword. The Bloodwheel Sword tore apart the first 8th-era forefather god. Under Long Chen's violent attacks, the 8th-era forefather god had no power to resist. Arg! The first 8th-era forefather god was gravely injured and eliminated. From then on, the remaining 5 realized that Long Chen had already made his move. Long Chen, how dare you attack us first? The drought demon ancestor was enraged. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Satsuma demon ancestor broke free from the suppression and launched an attack. Soul-slaying sword. As the drought demon ancestor cursed, Long Chen unleashed his terrifying power and caught up to the second 8th-era forefather god. Using the soul-slaying sword, he heavily injured the forefather god's soul and eliminated him. If they hadn't been eliminated soon, they'd have been worried that they'd lose their lives. This kid actually defeated the 8th-era forefather god with a single move. The ancestral dragon's legacy is actually this powerful. In truth, they were deeply shaken. You 3, go attack him. The drought demon ancestor was facing the Satsuma demon ancestor's counterattack. If he didn't suppress Long Chen, he'd be the butt of the joke today. Hearing his roar, the 3 8th-era forefather gods finally reacted and simultaneously attacked Long Chen. They thought that even the 7th-era forefather god would be somewhat afraid of being surrounded. Could Long Chen block them? Facing these 3 opponents, Long Chen had originally wanted to test out the time dragon, but then he realized that he shouldn't reveal too much about time before obtaining it. Thus, he decided to temporarily change it to the life-sizer dragon diagram. The life-sizer dragon diagram quickly took shape in his hands, and the blood-colored dragon began to glow with light as it appeared on the bodies of the 3 elder gods. It was a dragon head, a dragon body, and a dragon tail. Although it was only a third of it, it was more than enough to deal with the 3 elder gods of the 8th era. The life-sizer dragon diagram was incredibly powerful, and it was created solely for the purpose of seizing lives. If it weren't for the fact that Long Chen had been merciful, he would have been able to take the lives of these 3 elder gods. Before the 3 elder gods could even attack, they had already retreated. In the blink of an eye, all 5 of the 8th era's creation elder gods had retreated. They were in a sorry state as they retreated to the side to recuperate from their injuries. Even an ordinary 7th era's ancestor god wouldn't be able to cause such damage. Time to scram. Long Chen appeared next to the Satsuma demon ancestor. In front of him was the drought demon ancestor. Now, the drought demon ancestor was exposed to his sword. The battle between the 2 7th-era forefather gods had stopped because of Long Chen's intervention. The drought demon ancestor's face darkened, while the Satsuma demon ancestor transformed back into a cute young girl. She clenched her fists and placed them on her chest, and her eyes sparkled as she looked at Long Chen. Humph, it seems like you've grown quite well, Ancestor Dragon. You've improved by leaps and bounds. I'm so envious. The drought demon ancestor gnashed his teeth. Now that there were 5 injured people around him, continuing to fight would only bring humiliation to himself. Thank you for the compliment. Long Chen looked at him indifferently. However, the road ahead will be bumpy. I hope you can really survive, and one day become the ruler of all forefather gods as you imagine. The drought demon ancestor's words weren't meant to congratulate Long Chen, but to mock him. He was sure that Long Chen wouldn't reach that level. If he really did, someone would stop him. After saying that, the drought demon ancestor turned around angrily. He must have suppressed his murderous intent in his heart. Seeing him leave, the remaining 5 forefather gods followed him. Long Chen, I'll make you pay for what you've done today with your blood. One of the forefather gods said viciously as he left. One of the ancestor gods said viciously as he left. Of course, he was only putting on a brave front because he didn't even dare to look Long Chen in the eye when he spoke. That's great. The Satsuma demon ancestor was intoxicated. If it weren't for her shyness, she would have pounced on Long Chen. Long Chen looked back and saw that she was blushing. He asked, can I go with you to find the instant magic stone? Please, let me go with you, okay? Chapter 34-49. Long Chen quite liked this girl. But his goal in getting the instant magic stone was different from hers. He said, I want the instant magic stone for other purposes. If I had it, I wouldn't have given it to you, and you wouldn't have the protection of the Chiyu demon forefather. Hearing this, the Satsuma demon matriarch was overjoyed. Her smile revealed her white teeth, making her look even more adorable and sweet. She said innocently, You're really an idiot. If I could become your friend and follow you, I'd rather not have the protection of the Chiyu demon matriarch. I'd rather have your protection. Who would have thought that in her heart, his ability was on par with the Chiyu demon forefathers? Long Chen laughed awkwardly. I'm not as strong as the Chiyu demon forefather, but one day, you will surpass them, the Satsuma demon forefather said confidently. Demon ancestor Satsuma said with certainty. She had strong confidence in Long Chen, even more than Long Chen himself. Long Chen was moved by her confidence. Among the primordial gods, there were people as beautiful as the Satsuma demon forefather. His heart had been a little dark before, but now he felt that the Doomsday War had been worth it. All right, you can follow me. After all, she was the primordial god of the 7th era. If they really fought, Long Chen didn't know if he could beat her. With this helper, it would be of great help. That's great. The Satsuma demon forefather was wild with joy. She paced to the side, as though she had received the greatest happiness of her life. From today onwards, we are good friends. Satsuma. You called me by my name. I'm Junyu, not Satsuma. The snow-white Junyu said anxiously. That was right. Such a delicate girl should be called Junyu. Come, let's find the instant magic stone together. The journey didn't seem to be lonely anymore. Looking at this cheerful girl, Long Chen experienced many beautiful things. Of course, he didn't have any evil thoughts in his heart. Indeed, in his heart, Yu was like a daughter who worshipped her father. Putting aside their age, Long Chen treated her like a daughter. Just like that, after spending a few days together, the two of them got along very well as friends. Even when they were searching for the instant magic stone, Long Chen was very relaxed because of her. This brought him a different state of mind. In Long Chen's heart, Yu's place in the Creator's heart was on par with Elder God Lingsu's. They were both very simple friends, but they were also friends who could entrust their lives to each other. Why isn't there any news yet? How annoying. I really want to help you find it quickly. Yu was quite anxious. There's no rush. No one else knows. Long Chen switched locations several times, but he continued to use time to sense. As for Junyu, she had a very good sense of smell. She seemed to be able to smell the scent of the instant magic stone. This was because she had been nearby the last time the instant magic stone had appeared. She remembered its subtle scent. When the two worked together, they had a huge advantage. Long Chen rejoiced that he had left Junyu behind. Not only did he gain a friend, but he also gained a capable assistant. They met many teams and primordial gods while searching for the instant magic stone. Some people wanted to join them, but they were all rejected. On a certain day a few days later, they seemed to make a new discovery. Long Chen and Junyu simultaneously sensed the same direction. It was very rare for the two to coincide, but once they did, it meant that the chances of them appearing were quite high. Let's go. The two moved at their fastest speeds. They were on par with each other. Two beams of light flashed in the starry cosmos. As Long Chen and Jun Yu approached, they could clearly sense the presence of the instant magic stone. Success or failure will all depend on this. At this moment, Long Chen used his 10,000x time domain, greatly increasing the flow of time. He moved extremely quickly, traversing millions of kilometers in an instant. In that instant, he could clearly see a stone the size of a thumb floating in the starry cosmos. It had appeared previously, but it had remained there all this time. It could only be said that this time, it had remained there for a longer period of time. There it is. Jun Yu successfully saw it as well. Her gaze did not linger on the instant magic stone. Instead, she rapidly scanned her surroundings. This way, she would be able to help Long Chen understand the situation in advance. Based on her observations, it was clear that there were no other competitors in the vicinity. As long as Long Chen moved faster, everything would be fine. Quick, quick. The two pushed their speed to their limits. They were already much faster than the other primordial elder gods of the 7th era, but, just as Long Chen approached, the instant magic stone suddenly vanished. How is this possible? The two of them were still a step too slow. Jun Yu's face was filled with vexation. She had thought that she would succeed this time around, but she was still a step too slow. In her heart, she was anxious for Long Chen to obtain the instant magic stone. This was because she was very clear that Long Chen really needed the instant magic stone. It's all right. I'll wait for next time. Seeing that she was disappointed, Long Chen patted her shoulders. Actually, he had encountered such situations many times. This time around, he was not disappointed. Instead, he continued searching. All right, I'll definitely get it next time. Jun Yu had regained her confidence. Her mood recovered relatively quickly, and it didn't take long before she started giggling like a blossoming flower. However, just as they were about to head to the next location, another group of people had just arrived due to the commotion caused by the instant magic stone. They happened to bump into Long Chen, who was about to leave. There were a total of 10 people in this group, which was the upper limit set by the Qiyu demonic ancestor. Among them was Drought Demon Ancestor. Of the 5 8th era primordial elder gods that had been injured by Long Chen, only 3 were left. It was likely that the two groups had combined and abandoned the weaker and injured ones. This time, there were 7 8th era primordial elder gods in this group. Of course, there were 3 7th era primordial elder gods, including Drought Demon Ancestor. The other 2 new companions of Drought Demon Ancestor happened to be the same type as him. As the saying went, birds of a feather flock together. Samo Demon Ancestor and Long Chen walked together, and the 3 of them gathered together. One of them was like the primordial war ancestor. He was made of steel and had no flesh or blood. However, his entire body was silver, and his arms and legs were segmented. His head was also rather ugly. Although he was in human form, upon closer inspection, he looked like a worm. He had a majestic demonic aura. Clearly, this was a primordial ancestor god of the demonic race. The other one wore a gray robe and had a stooped figure. He held a withered wooden staff with a skull at the top. Under the gray robe, this person was shrouded in gray mist, but one could see that he did not have much flesh or blood. Most of his bones were exposed, and even if he had flesh or blood, it was dried rotten flesh, as if he had been eaten by a flock of crows. These 2 new 7th era primordial elder gods were a perfect match for Drought Demon Ancestor. In fact, they were even more sinister than Drought Demon Ancestor. This was especially true for the gray-robed person, who was like a god of death. The large amount of death aura on him was actually related to the death rule. The steel worm was the silver succubus demonic ancestor. His true form was a steel centipede, the silver succubus. Like the primordial war ancestor, the silver succubus was adept at the steel rule, and also possessed intense venom. Although he was also born in the middle of the 7th era, he was still very powerful. The other gray-robed person was the dead soul ghost ancestor. The world he created was the dead soul world. The rule he was adept at was the death rule, similar to that of Long Chen. However, the dead soul ghost ancestor was even more sinister. He could even control corpses and was extremely cruel. Drought Demon Ancestor, the silver succubus demonic ancestor, and the dead soul ghost ancestor were all born in the middle of the 7th era. Their strength could be said to be on par with each other. However, as soon as the 2 teams met, Long Chen could feel the intense hostility from the other side, especially from Drought Demon Ancestor. He shouted angrily, "Long Chen, Samaya Demonic Ancestor, hand over the instant magic stone. Hurry up, or I'll let you have a taste of my Drought Demon's wrath, as well as their silver succubus poison and dead soul resentment." As long as the Ancestral Gods Alliance existed, the three of them could not kill Long Chen and the others. Therefore, in general, the only way to scare them was by torturing them. For example, Lingxi's lifetime heart corrosion curse. Only then would Dark Knight Divine Ancestor truly submit. The Drought Demon's wrath, silver succubus poison, and dead soul resentment were all methods that could make one wish for death. The difference between them and the lifetime heart corrosion curse was that the curse was continuous and unbreakable. These three methods could not be maintained forever, and the damage they caused was also very short. However, in terms of power and immediate torment, they were about the same. Therefore, Drought Demon Ancestor used this as a threat. Long Chen said, "I'm sorry to disappoint you. The instant magic stone is faster than you think. If I really managed to snatch it, this world would be enough for me to reach the Xueqi demon domain before you arrived. I'm still here waiting for you to snatch it." This was the truth. Once he obtained the instant magic stone, he would definitely bring it back to the Death Rain and leave it nowhere to run. However, whether they believed him or not was beyond Long Chen's control. Fortunately, the three ancestral gods of the Seventh Era probably believed him, so they were not in a hurry to snatch it. However, he did not expect them to still surround Long Chen and Drought Demon Ancestor. On the other side, Long Chen had already opened the Death Rain Dragon Gate. Although it was risky, it should not be a problem for him to escape under the attack of the 10 opponents. However, he was puzzled as to why they surrounded him. Was it revenge? As expected, Drought Demon Ancestor said through gritted teeth, "Long Chen, you have the Primordial War Ancestor's protection, so we are not going to touch you this time. However, Demon Ancestor Satsuma must stay. She betrayed us and is a traitor. Traitors must be punished. You can leave. As long as you do not interfere, we can spare you. However, Demon Ancestor Satsuma must stay. Otherwise, you will be going against us. Even if we bring this up to the Ancestral Gods Alliance, you will not be in the right." Moreover, it was an open battle. In reality, Long Chen had the Death's Rain. Even if it was a battle, he could still escape. However, once the battle was agreed upon, it would be under the watchful eyes of everyone. If he escaped at that time, he would lose too much face and would definitely be looked down upon by others. Of course, that's fine. Come on. The Drought Demon Ancestor was about to laugh out loud. He really did not know where Long Chen got his confidence from. 2 against 3. Junyu was also very nervous. However, at this moment Long Chen said, "The three of you are too anxious. I'm not talking about now. Aren't you afraid that we will fight to the point where both sides are injured and the third party will benefit from it? The most important thing now is to see who gets the instant demon stone first. My agreement is that 1 month after the instant demon stone is obtained, no matter who obtains it, I will wait for the three of you outside the Satsuma demon realm with her. In this way, the three of you won't have to wait outside the Satsuma demon realm. Our enmity can also be settled once and for all." Actually, he thought that if he could get the instant magic stone smoothly, he would gain time. If he could get it more smoothly, he would gain the original dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon. He estimated that it would take him less than 1 month. Additionally, he had the 4th floor of the Tower of Time. 1 month was very long. Therefore, he was confident that he could deal with the 3 troubles together with Luiwei by then. After all, to Long Chen, this was neither a big nor a small matter. It would save these 3 old fogies from pestering him. Hearing Long Chen's words, the Drought Demon Ancestor felt that it was reasonable. Actually, he felt that Long Chen was not easy to deal with. Once something went wrong in this battle, he would not be able to obtain the instant demon stone. That would be a great loss for a small gain. If he obtained the instant demon stone, he would have a month to familiarize himself with the Qiyu demon ancestor before taking revenge. The timing was well arranged. It all depended on who could obtain the instant demon stone first. Alright, then we will let you, the Satsuma demon ancestor, be happy for a period of time. We will spread this agreement. Hopefully, the 2 of you won't be cowards by then." After saying that, they roared with laughter. Before Long Chen left with the Death Rain, they would leave first. In this way, the crisis would be resolved. That's impossible, Long Chen. There are 2 of us and 3 of them. Moreover, they are all extremely vicious. You only have 1 origin world. You can't take such a risk with me, Junyu said worriedly. Don't worry. Our mission now is to focus on finding the instant demon stone. Actually, the 3 ancestral gods of the 7th era did not have much confidence. Victory actually depended on whether they could obtain the inheritance of the Void Universe Dragon. Long Chen was creating some pressure for himself. He was creating a reason to obtain the time and the Origin Dragon Soul as soon as possible. Pressure was motivation. Even if the 3 of them combined had 9 origins of the worlds, Long Chen was also someone who had seen the world. He might not be afraid. Now, his heart was so strong that it did not lose to the ancestral gods of the 4th era. However, Junyu was far from this level. No matter how Long Chen tried to make her feel at ease, she was still upset. She felt that she had caused so much trouble for Long Chen, and that she was not worthy to be his friend. All right, stop fooling around. Don't forget that the most important thing for us is still the instant demon stone. Long Chen reminded her. Actually, he was lamenting. Girls were troublesome when they recovered. She was too considerate of Long Chen. No matter what he said, she would not understand. Long Chen was also too lazy to say more. He just thought, I'll call her when the time comes. Next, Long Chen focused on searching for the instant magic stone. Junyu was fine, and she was happy. However, there was a hint of a young girl hidden deep in her eyes. However, in the depths of her eyes, there was a trace of a young girl's worry. She was also seriously searching for the instant demon stone. It was just that she spoke less. Long Chen told her not to worry a few times, but it did not have much effect. Unknowingly, the Sea of Sky Demons appeared in front of them again. Let's go in and take a look. Long Chen felt that there seemed to be some movement in the Sea of Sky Demons. These few days, he heard that the instant demon stone was very active. Moreover, it was wandering around nearby. Others had seen it a few times. I think it's here too, Junyu said. At this moment, the Sea of Sky Demons was very quiet. There shouldn't be anyone inside. The 2 of them entered directly. Just as they were about to speed forward, they suddenly realized that they were not heading in the same direction. Do you think it's over there? Long Chen asked. Yes, Junyu replied. Then come to my side first. We can't waste time. In comparison, Long Chen trusted himself more. He continued to move forward. However, Junyu went in another direction. She said anxiously, let's split up and meet up later. This wasn't a big problem. After all, the Sea of Sky Demons was only so big. If someone else entered, Junyu just had to shout and Long Chen would arrive immediately. Hence, the 2 of them split up and headed for their respective targets. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen saw the instant demon stone. The instant demon stone was in the depths of the Sea of Sky Demons. Whoosh! When Long Chen broke through the layers of ice-cold waves and instantly approached, the instant demon stone vanished into thin air again. This really infuriated him. He had just obtained a clue, but it was gone again. At the very least, the instant demon stone had gone far away again. Depressing. Long Chen turned back and went to find Junyu. Previously, they had different opinions on the patrol. Hence, they sensed different directions today. This was normal. Junyu had sensed wrongly. However, when Long Chen called out to her, he realized that she didn't respond. There was no trace of her in the entire Sea of Sky Demons. Junyu, where did you go? At first, Long Chen thought that a stronger ancestor god had appeared, causing her to disappear. However, it was impossible for there to be no movement at all. The only possibility was that she had left on her own. Stop fooling around. If you don't say anything, I'm going to get angry. Long Chen left the Sea of Sky Demons and looked around. Junyu had already vanished. Clearly, she had long planned to use the Sea of Sky Demons to complete her task. After a while, she saw that Long Chen was really angry, so she replied, "Don't bother about me. I have to settle my own matters. I can't implicate you. After I'm done, I'll come and find you." However, Long Chen didn't respond to her no matter what she said. It was likely that she had blocked out Long Chen's voice. From the looks of it, she was going to find Sacred Ancestor Hanba and the others to beg for their forgiveness and cancel the battle that Long Chen had set. This silly girl. Long Chen was truly speechless. However, he didn't explain it clearly. However, he also had his own difficulties. He absolutely couldn't tell her about the time and the origins dragon soul. Chapter 3451. Sacred Ancestor Drought Ba, the Argentum Succubus demonic forefather, and the Dead Soul Ghost forefather did not expect the Satsuma demonic forefather to come looking for them alone. They were currently in the midst of a frantic search. They heard that the instant magic stone had appeared in the vicinity in the past few days. Although it did not appear for long, at least many people had seen it. Where's Long Chen? Sacred Ancestor Drought Ba looked at the Satsuma demonic forefather with blazing eyes and asked coldly. At the same time, she looked around to guard against any ambushes set up by the Satsuma demonic forefather. He's not here. The Satsuma demonic forefather mustered up her courage and said, I came alone to discuss something with you. I'm curious. What do you want to discuss? You've got some guts. The Argentum Succubus demonic forefather spoke in her cold mechanical voice. As they spoke, they cooperated with each other and vaguely surrounded the Satsuma demonic forefather. It was not that they hated the Satsuma demonic forefather, but that the sacred ancestor felt that she had played a trick on her. The Satsuma demonic forefather said, This grudge is ours and has nothing to do with Long Chen, so I want you to call off the duel. If there's any anger in your heart, we can settle it here. I don't want to implicate him. The Satsuma demonic forefather was very upset that Long Chen had gotten into trouble because of her. She naturally did not want to put Long Chen in danger because of her. In her heart, Long Chen was a hero and a benefactor who had saved her life twice. She knew that she could only repay his kindness and not bite the hand that fed her. She could not allow Long Chen to be tortured by the 3 ancestral gods of the 7th era. After hearing her words, the 10 ancestral gods looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. It seems that you're worried that we'll hurt Long Chen, I see. To be honest, he has the protection of a stronger ancestral god. Even if he agreed to the duel, we're worried that others will intervene. It's good that you're here. After all, this is a matter between us. Rest assured, you and Long Chen have joined hands to injure my brothers and humiliate me. As for me, I will return this humiliation to you. They spoke one after another, agreeing to the Satsuma demonic forefather's words. You have to swear that you won't trouble Long Chen from today onward. The Satsuma demonic ancestor was very insistent. This was the purpose of her visit. Forget about swearing. We will naturally abide by our words. There's no need to be so old-fashioned. Never. Master, the ghost ancestor ghost said. They laughed again. Finally, the dead soul's ghost ancestor said, Demon ancestor Satsuma, do you think you still have the right to make such demands? Yes, she was already surrounded. Compared to them, the Satsuma demon ancestor was still far from being sinister and cunning. Ancestor Xing 6. Ancestor Spirit Void Spirit Dragonmon Father. Who said said today, is said. Demon. Ba Ancestor 2. I said I Chen Demonic Demon, See Sacred, Ba Spirit. Rumble. In particular, the vicious attacks of the 3 ancestral gods of the 7th era brought great danger to demon forefather Satsuma. Even though she had reverted to her true form and fought with her opponents in her giant beast form, there were too many of them. Soon she was covered in blood. Have a taste of my drought demon's wrath. Of course, you can't miss out on my astral charm poison. The resentment of dead spirits will become your eternal nightmare. You won't be able to live in peace from now on. The astral charm demonic forefather and the ghost ancestor had a grudge against the demon ancestor ghost ancestor. Firstly, they were fighting the same opponent, so they could strengthen the cohesion of their temporary team. Secondly, they were cold and cruel by nature. If they could torture others, why wouldn't they? Despite the heavy blows and torture, Yu did not regret her decision. At the very least, Long Chen should be out of danger. The 3 of them should not show up on the appointed day. As long as he's safe, I don't mind suffering. I won't die anyway, however, the suffering was too much. She only realized how terrifying it was after enduring it. Where did she go? Long Chen searched for a long time, but could not find any trace of her. I think she must want me not to have a conflict with the 3 7th era ancestral gods. She must have gone to find them. Maybe they've already started fighting. Therefore, Long Chen began to look for signs of fighting, hoping to find something. Through subtle perception, he did find that there was a fight going on. Not far from it. After all, Yu had not left for long. This silly girl. In the end, she made such a choice because Long Chen had not shown enough strength to make her feel at ease. In the end, it was because she cared about Long Chen. After finding the signs of fighting, Long Chen found that he had left the Death Realm Dragon Gate nearby. That was easy. He directly passed through the Death Realm. When he came out, he saw that not far away, Yu was besieged by 10 ancestral gods. She was almost covered in wounds. The cruelty of the other party's attack made Long Chen furious. It was just an ordinary conflict, but they were still so persistent. It was indeed exaggerated. Especially their nature to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Therefore, Long Chen did not say anything and shouted angrily, "Stop." His voice was like a storm. It was born suddenly and indeed disrupted the rhythm of the battle. The opponent was a little stunned. Demon ancestor Satsuma also prayed that Long Chen would not appear. Unfortunately, Long Chen still appeared. Amidst the frenzied attacks of the dozens of ancestral gods, Long Chen remained extremely calm. First, he used the Death Shadow's nomological law to protect himself and conceal his movements. Then, he headed towards the core of the battle. Under normal circumstances, the Death Shadow might have been discovered. However, in the midst of the chaos it was impossible. Long Chen successfully evaded the battles, passing by the ancestral gods. In the blink of an eye, he was very close to the instant magic stone. In terms of snatching the instant magic stone, his nomological law had a huge advantage. Get out of the way. At this moment, the strongest team, which consisted of Drought Demon and the other two, finally forced the other ancestral gods away. They surrounded the instant magic stone. Among them, Drought Demon Patriarch had already grabbed the instant magic stone tightly. The Silver Succubus Demon Patriarch and the Dead Soul Ghost Patriarch were guarding the instant magic stone in the middle, forcing the other competitors away with bloodthirsty looks. A new reader group was created, Samsara's Tomb. 4333833127. Because at this moment, there were 2 ancestral gods attacking him from his left and right. One was from the 7th era, but he was born at the end of the era. The other was from the 8th era. After all, he had the instant magic stone in his hand. Naturally, there were many people attacking him. Sacred Ancestor Drought Demon was dealing with them. As for Long Chen's side, with the Silver Succubus Demonic Patriarch blocking, he didn't have any problems. He didn't think that the Silver Succubus Demonic Patriarch would suddenly disappear, and the brutal Blood Succubus Tyrannosaurus Dragon Sword Prison would appear. Boom boom boom. Countless sword chi exploded into Sacred Ancestor Drought Demon's body. Long Chen's Massacre Sword had directly severed Sacred Ancestor Drought Demon Ancestor's arm, and the instant magic stone was in that palm. Whoosh. Long Chen used the 10,000 worlds time domain to increase his speed. At the same time, he suppressed time, causing it to stand still. This also cut off the instant magic stone's escape route. Unsurprisingly, he was the first to take control of the instant magic stone. The instant magic stone would fly away if placed in a god kingdom or any other time. However, Long Chen had other worlds. These ancestral dragon worlds weren't so easy to escape from. The life and death realms, the demonic dragon ancient tomb, and other places were frequently opened, and it was possible for it to fly out. However, there was one place that could definitely make it obedient. And that was the ruin of time. The time inside was 10,000 times slower than outside. The instant magic stone's movements inside were also 10,000 times slower to the 10,000 worlds. Moreover, it was very difficult for the ruin of time to open. The time inside was long enough for Long Chen to hand the instant magic stone over to the Qiyu demonic patriarch. Therefore, he had already thought it through. The moment he snatched the instant magic stone, he placed it in the ruin of time. Long Chen. In terms of world origin energy, they surpassed Long Chen by a lot. 1 month later, in the Satsuma demon domain, I hope you will appear on time. The ancestor gods of the world are waiting for you. Sacred Ancestor Drought Demon said angrily. To be honest, He didn't even have the chance to attack Long Chen today. His item had already been snatched away. He simply wanted to fight right now. Long Chen didn't reply to them. He looked at the ruins of time. The instant demon stone definitely couldn't come out. Then, he went to the realm of life. Lingxi was already here. She used the world-cleansing lotus and the purification rule to help Junyu get rid of the dark energy, which was the drought demon's wrath and Argenti charm poison. Because June's time is short, the dark energy hasn't penetrated deeply, so I can get rid of it. Lingxi turned and said to Long Chen. At this moment, Junyu was like a little girl, nestled in Lingxi's embrace. I remember. You were the one who woke me up the last time. You saved me again. Thank you. Junyu clung onto Lingxi again. Back during the apocalypse, it was Lingxi who had helped her regain her clarity of mind. The one who had truly saved her life was indeed Lingxi. During this chaotic battle, in order to make this fellow feel more at ease, Long Chen allowed her to watch the battle. Junyu had also seen it with her own eyes. Long Chen had obtained the instant demon stone. When she saw Long Chen again, her eyes were filled with even deeper reverence. At the same time, there was also a deep sense of guilt. It's me. I almost made you lose the instant magic stone. It's also my fault. It's all my fault. But you saved me again. At this point, 6 months' sobs had turned into loud wails. All right, don't cry. Trust me next time. Don't make rash decisions. Otherwise, we won't treat you as a friend in the future. Friends need to trust each other and not act on their own. Chapter 3453. He had to scare her. Otherwise, she would act recklessly again. Since they were friends, Long Chen had to take responsibility for her. I'll remember. Lu Yu wiped away her tears and nodded heavily like a wronged wife. Don't scare her. This girl was very kind, and Lingxi liked her quite a lot. No, I know he's good to me. Lu Yu hurriedly shook her head. After today, she was ready to repay Long Chen and the others in the future. Long Chen then used the soul-returning Song of Life to let her gradually recover from her injuries. Then, he told her to follow Lingxi around the dragon sacrificial continent and not to return to the Satsuma demon realm for the next few days. She recovered. After all, she was the 7th era's ancestral god. She was still very protective of the dragon sacrificial continent. After that, Long Chen hurriedly went to the Jiuli Devil domain. He couldn't wait to obtain the item hidden in the Jiuli Devil domain. Whether it was time or the origin dragon soul, they were the most important parts of the Void Universe dragon. After calming himself down, Long Chen appeared. After all, he knew that the Qiyu demon ancestor was not easy to deal with. Even if he had the instant demon stone and fulfilled his conditions, he could not let his guard down now. He was more powerful than the drought demon ancestor and the others. He was the 5th era's ancestral god, and at the beginning of an era, the Jiuli demon domain was still deathly silent. It was especially so after the primordial Jiuli demon diagram had been created. It had completely sealed off the entire Jiuli demon domain. Long Chen hadn't gone to other worlds recently, but according to Elder God Pengu, he had created something similar. You brought the instant demon stone. The Qiyu demon ancestor was silent again. He swept over from a cloud of smoke and finally condensed into a black minotaur in front of Long Chen. His gaze was still indifferent, but even Long Chen could feel a penetrating force from him. He felt the demonic nature of the Qiyu demon ancestor. Perhaps, the devilish nature of the primordial giant devils originated from the Qiyu demon ancestor, the cursed demon ancestor, and the other creator gods with devilish nature. They were the terrifying primordial devils who stood at the beginning of the world's creation in the distant past. Yes, I brought it. Give it to me. Qiyu demon ancestor had 4 arms. He extended his left arm towards Long Chen. It was a rough and black palm. In the ruins of time, Long Chen took away the instant magic stone. Just as he took it away, the instant magic stone forcefully left. However, Long Chen did not have to worry, because the instant magic stone was in the hands of the Qiyu demon ancestor. That's right, it's the ancient instant demon stone. The Qiyu demon ancestor said nonchalantly before turning around. He took the instant demon stone and headed towards the ancient Jiuli demon diagram. He stood at the core of the diagram, and there were countless demonic marks there. They were like the stars surrounding the moon, and the most central position was left empty. That empty space was where the instant magic stone was placed. Without saying a word, demon ancestor Qiyu placed the instant magic stone within. Before this, the instant magic stone was constantly screaming and struggling. It was as though it had a life of its own. It yearned for freedom without any restraints. However, demon ancestor Qiyu had locked the instant magic stone in one place forever, as though he was imprisoning it. However, the instant magic stone was powerless to resist. Finally, the instant magic stone fused with the ancient Xueqi demon diagram. With a buzz, the demon diagram vibrated 9 times. Each time it vibrated, a picture of a gigantic demon god would appear. From the picture, one could tell that it was filled with demonic aura and was a ferocious and evil being. The ancient Xueqi demon diagram should have been formed. After it was formed, the entire demon diagram suddenly disappeared, as though it had disappeared. However, Long Chen knew that this was its true and complete state. Outsiders could not see it at all, but it had indeed protected the entire Xueqi demon domain. Very good, it's done. Demon ancestor Qiyu was very satisfied. The arrangements he had made during this period of time had finally yielded results. He was admiring his work, and Long Chen had sufficient patience to wait for him. After all, this was the time to obtain what he wanted. Follow me. Not long after, demon ancestor Qiyu did not go back on his words. He went down first, and Long Chen hurriedly followed him. When he went through the ancient Xueqi demon diagram, Long Chen also followed him. In just a blink of an eye, they had passed through. With demon ancestor Qiyu controlling it, of course, Long Chen would not be stopped. After passing through, Xueqi demon domain appeared in front of Long Chen. Although it was just an original incipient grade world, it was still a magnificent place. Of course, it was much worse than the dragon sacrificial continent. It's far from your dragon sacrificial continent, right? Demon ancestor Qiyu asked expressionlessly. Myriad worlds used to be glorious. That year, Xueqi demon domain was like that too. It was best not to answer this kind of comparison directly. After all, demon ancestor Qiyu's question itself was dangerous. If you want to find yourself, find it yourself. Demon ancestor Qiyu was too lazy to say more. Thank you. Long Chen recalled the appearance of that river in his head, every detail of its curves. His eyes swept over and compared it to any other river in the entire Xueqi demon domain. In Xueqi demon domain, there were too many rivers, big and small. Long Chen had locked onto many targets, but in the end, he only found a small difference. These were all relatively big rivers. Because of the small difference, Long Chen gave up on all of them. He thought that the void cosmic dragon wouldn't allow such a difference to appear. Then, he enlarged his target and searched for a smaller river. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. He knew that demon ancestor Qiyu's patience was limited, so he increased his speed. In fact, he was also quite anxious at this moment. Fortunately, at this moment he found his target. The moment he saw it, Long Chen was sure that it was him. However, it was really unimaginable because it wasn't a big river. It was a smelly ditch beside a house in a remote village in Xueqi demon domain. Its width was only around 20 centimeters. It was too different from what Long Chen had imagined. However, he was sure that it was this smelly ditch because every detail and curve was exactly the same. Demon ancestor, I want this ditch, said Long Chen. Demon ancestor Qiyu had followed him for a long time, wanting to know what he wanted. He didn't expect it to be this unassuming thing. He even suspected that Long Chen had made a mistake. Are you sure? Yes. Demon ancestor Qiyu was still puzzled. He stood in front of this smelly ditch. To be honest, he had exhausted all means available to him, but he couldn't find anything strange about it. He had wanted to see what Long Chen was up to. But at this moment, he suffered a blow. That was because he couldn't see anything at all. How is that possible? Demon ancestor Qiyu hesitated. Just as he was hesitating, Long Chen said, Demon ancestor, according to the agreement, I will take this ditch away. Wait. Demon ancestor Qiyu hesitated. He actually had plans to give Long Chen something, but he had to know what it was. So he said, you can take it, but I have a request. Hearing him say that, Long Chen knew that the process wouldn't be easy. Demon ancestor, please speak. Come back tomorrow afternoon, and it will be yours. Demon ancestor Qiyu said. Long Chen finally understood. In fact, he was probably unwilling to accept it. He wasn't happy that he didn't even know what Long Chen wanted. So, he wanted to give himself a day to study it. But he only wanted to delay for a day. Long Chen didn't have any reason or ability to get it now. After all, this was Demon Ancestor Chio's world. So, he could only choose to compromise. All right, I will come back tomorrow. With that, Long Chen didn't stay any longer. Demon Ancestor Qiyu had a weird personality. Before he got time, he had to follow his requests. If he angered him, he might even give him an excuse to refuse to give time to Long Chen. That's right, when he saw the ditch, Long Chen could basically confirm that it wasn't the origin dragon soul, but time. The ancestral dragons hid their inheritance so well that the sky-swallowing race probably didn't discover it. Whether it was massacre or time, they both needed opportunity and inherited the essence blood to be found. Other things were impossible. As for Demon Ancestor Qiyu, he obviously wants to use a day to study time. But he definitely can't understand it, because time requires the rules of time. Just like how the appearance of massacre required the blood wheel sword. Long Chen wasn't afraid of Demon Ancestor Chio's research. He waited in the death world. After a day, June had more or less recovered. Long Chen bade them farewell and returned to Jiuli Demon territory. He stood outside and said, "Demon Ancestor, I'm here." After a while, a passageway finally appeared in the ancient Jiuli Demon diagram. Fortunately, he would still let Long Chen enter. Long Chen flew over. Not long later, he saw Demon Ancestor Qiyu sitting cross-legged beside the ditch. His expression was very ugly. Obviously, it was because he, a dignified ancestor god of the Fifth Era, spent a day and actually couldn't feel anything special about the ditch. Moreover, the ditch had even crumbled in his hands and turned into particles. Demon Ancestor Qiyu didn't even notice what was special about it. It was clearly the simplest rotten liquid. There was also animal and human feces. Moreover, the water inside was constantly flowing to other places. Because of Long Chen's arrival, Demon Ancestor Qiyu restored this part of the place. Now, he even suspected that Long Chen was playing with him. "It belongs to you now." Demon Ancestor Qiyu gave up. With this permission, Long Chen was in a good mood. After he thanked Demon Ancestor Qiyu, he didn't say anything else and separated the ditch. Then, he opened the Death World Dragon Gate and moved it into the Death World. "You." Demon Ancestor Chio's expression changed. He wanted to stop Long Chen again, but Long Chen pretended not to hear him. He moved the ditch in and closed the Death World Dragon Gate. Only then did he succeed. Long Chen also heaved a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Demon Ancestor." Long Chen's expression was calm. Chapter 3454. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. This was a dangerous place after all, so Long Chen was in a hurry to leave. The Qiyu Demon Ancestor was still staring at him. Just as he was about to nod, his gaze froze. "Long Chen, let me ask you a question. Is this ditch important to you?" "It's somewhat important. It would be too fake to say it wasn't." At this time, Long Chen had a premonition that something might happen. "That should be left for you by the ancestral dragon. I'm thinking that you once used the power of time and displayed the rules of time. I've seen it before. Then, perhaps you've also received the legacy of the Void Aeon Dragon, just that you don't have the source of the world. Is that so?" Actually, this was just a bold guess, but this guess was directly the truth. "Senior, you're thinking too much." Long Chen sensed the danger. If it was the source of the world, then it was too important. Although it wasn't of much use to the Qiyu Demon Ancestor, the key was, the ancestral gods didn't want Long Chen to be too powerful. They didn't want Long Chen to be above them and rule over the myriad worlds. "No, I suddenly feel that it must be. I was confused for a whole day, but now I see the light. My intuition tells me that it must be so." The Qiyu Demon Ancestor's voice was even shaking. The Void Aeon Dragon used to be just below the first and second ancestral dragons. Because these two ancestral dragons didn't exist normally, the Void Aeon Dragon was once the strongest in the myriad worlds. Its source of the world was the foundation of the Void Aeon Dragon. How could the Qiyu demon ancestor be willing to let something so important slip out of his hands just like that? He wasn't. He felt as if his heart was being sliced into pieces. I understand now. Rivers and time. I didn't understand why you kept searching for all sorts of rivers and then found this ditch. I couldn't understand this ditch either. So the key is time. That's right. In the deepest part of this ditch, the simplest particles have the power of time. It's just that I didn't think of it before. The Qiyu demon ancestor was a little emotional. At this juncture, Long Chen was already prepared to open up the Death World's Dragon Gate and escape. Actually, he was just a little bit away. Who would have thought that he would be able to guess it at the final juncture? Moreover, he was very certain, not even giving Long Chen a chance to refute, because he himself was certain. When he recalled the details, he was sure of it. It was useless to deny his conjecture now. Instead, it would make the Qiyu demon ancestor feel disgusted. Long Chen said calmly, "Demon ancestor, what it is not important. What is important is your promise. You said that if I give you the instant magic stone, you will give it to me. Moreover, I did not lie to you. Although it is very useful to me, it is useless to you." This might not be able to suppress the Qiyu demon ancestor. After being tough, Long Chen's tone softened. He said, "Demon ancestor, no matter what, if I have this opportunity and succeed, I will thank you for your help today. If I have the chance to regain my position as the ancestor dragon, I will not mistreat you. I will still treat you as my benefactor." This was using both the carrot and the stick. He wanted the Qiyu demon ancestor to not regret giving away the source of the world today. On one hand, the Qiyu demon ancestor valued what he had said. On the other hand, if Long Chen could really become strong, it would be good to have him as an ally. It all depended on whether the Qiyu demon ancestor could suppress the indignation in his heart. And it was precisely because of this that he was feeling so conflicted right now. That pair of tiger eyes of his glared at Long Chen with a death stare as a torrential demonic aura burst forth. All of a sudden, the Qiyu demon ancestor punched out with his fist. It was a punch that was incomparably fast. It was a punch that could not be resisted. This punch suddenly landed on Long Chen's body. The terrifying demonic chi surged over, bringing with it the most primitive and domineering power. Instantly, the demonic chi penetrated Long Chen's body, causing his flesh and blood to disintegrate. This heavy blow had seriously injured Long Chen. Fortunately, the source of the world massacre was fine. So was the essence soul of the great void universe dragon. His life was protected. However, with such injuries and the demonic chi wreaking havoc on his body, he would probably need some time to recover. Long Chen's first thought was, "The Qiyu demon ancestor wants to kill me." However, after being hit, he understood that the Qiyu demon ancestor was just venting his anger. If he really wanted to kill him, he would already be dead. Indeed, after Long Chen crawled to his feet, he said angrily, "Scram. I, the Qiyu demon ancestor, am a man of my words. If I say it's yours, it's yours. Also, be it in the past, present, or future, I don't need anyone's protection. This punch can be considered a punishment for your disrespectful words." Long Chen laughed in his heart. These words sounded nice, but in reality, he was just venting his anger. He was just feeling uncomfortable in his heart. Giving away such an important thing just like that, he would also feel heartache, even though he had no use for it. However, he had agreed after all. Therefore, he could only do this for the sake of his face. Farewell. If he could leave, he naturally had to leave immediately. Without another word, Long Chen left the Jiuli demon region and returned to the death rain. At this moment, his body was still covered in demonic chi. He needed to expel the destructive power of the saber, or he would live in this calamity for eternity. Lingxi came over to help as well. "Let me do it too." Luyue also knew some similar means. Her laws leaned towards light, and she also had many healing laws. With the three of them working together, Long Chen finally made it through. This Qiyu demon ancestor, although time is in your world, this punch today is too heavy. Originally, Long Chen was quite grateful to him, but the other party's domineering punch made him withdraw his gratitude. Just as Qiyu demon ancestor had said, he did not need any support or help from Long Chen. Forget it. It's for the best that I don't need to return this favor. Long Chen's mood finally calmed down. Moreover, everyone around him was concerned about him. That ditch had already been moved by Long Chen to the 4th floor of the Tower of Time. At this moment, Long Chen could not wait any longer and came here. In his eyes, this was also an inconspicuous thing, but Long Chen could vaguely sense the changes in the time particles. Lingxi and the others were all waiting. After all, every world source of the ancestral dragon was a miraculous thing. Even the 6 dragon attendants had returned. They were all filled with excitement. This was the second one. Without saying anything, Long Chen already had a time dragon swimming in his hand. On the tiny void cosmic dragon, there were billions of changes and disorder of time. Go! Under the control of Long Chen, the time dragon flew towards the ditch. In a very short period of time, the time dragon sank into the ditch and integrated with the water. After the time dragon drilled into the body of the astral demon ancestor, it could shatter its flesh and blood. Its power was also quite great. The world source of the void cosmic dragon time was what Long Chen was looking forward to. Under everyone's nervous gaze, the whole ditch suddenly exploded into pieces again. This time, it was even finer, like powder within powder, spreading in front of them like smoke. Qiyu demon ancestor had also shattered this ditch before. The difference was that Qiyu demon ancestor did not have the time dragon. And now, the time dragon had completely dispersed and fused into the gutter powder. Every fragment of the gutter powder was contaminated with the power of time. It was this power of time that caused the gutter to reform and undergo new changes. World source time. Birth. It was exactly the same as when Slaughter was born. Slaughter was a blood-red long sword. The blade had the dragon pattern of the ancient blood spiritual dragon, which was very similar to the bloody style of the ancient blood spiritual dragon. Time was taking shape and condensing. Because the void cosmic dragon was the ancestral god of the Third Era, the scene was more magnificent and more magical. The powder gradually became light blue and translucent under the penetration of the power of time. When it was combined, Long Chen vaguely saw dozens of translucent oval rings that were like nothingness. Ding, ding, ding. At this time, the translucent, illusory rings combined and connected. Only then did everyone realize the shape of the world source. It's an incorporeal one, but it has light blue iron chains. Yes, it's an iron chain. It's so beautiful. And when the rings are connected, there seems to be the pattern of the void cosmic dragon in them. This was time. Slaughter was a blood sword. Long Chen had guessed it, but he had never thought that time was actually an illusory iron chain. But from the perspective of a weapon, the iron chain could attack like a long whip, and it could also bind and bind. It had many other uses and was a weapon that was very suitable to use the rules of time. It was even possible that time had more forms. It's just that before I get the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon, I can't completely understand it and use it like Slaughter. Long Chen could only use Slaughter after he got the origin dragon soul of the ancient blood spiritual dragon. Chapter 3455. Time was illusory, but it could also be real. At least the power within it was real. Long Chen held time in his hand and felt a bloodline connection. Because he had inherited the essence blood of the Void Universe Dragon, this time seemed to be a part of his body. He was just missing the origin dragon soul of the Void Universe Dragon. After playing with time for a long time and familiarizing himself with it, Long Chen moved on to the next step. Back then, Slaughter had vaguely guided the location of the origin dragon soul of the primordial blood spirit dragon. Would time guide him too? At that time, because the Sky Devourer clan had turned the origin dragon soul of the primordial blood spirit dragon into a doomsday behemoth, Slaughter had been difficult to find until Doomsday had appeared. Perhaps the origin dragon soul of the Void Universe Dragon isn't in the hands of the Sky Devourer clan. In that case, will time guide me? If it was set up by the Void Universe Dragon, the information would definitely be in time. Let me study it. Long Chen prepared to stay on the 4th floor of the Tower of Time. The others also started to busy themselves. During this period of time, Lingxi and Kitten had been recovering their strength in the Tower of Time for many years. If there were no accidents, Kitten would be able to recover to the 8th era of the primordial ancestor god realm in a few hundred years and form the second world origin that he once had. Lingxi's third world origin would be formed soon. It seemed that when she had 2 world origins on the White Lotus, the second one on the Black Prison would also form very quickly. June was already very familiar with the Dragonright continent and even had a good time with the Dragon Face and Dragon Scale. Now, she believed in Long Chen's abilities. Therefore, although the bet in a month's time still existed, and it was 1 against 3, she really believed in Long Chen. Although others felt that it was impossible, she felt that it was possible. One day in the outside world was 30 years on the 4th floor of the Tower of Time. Therefore, Long Chen had actually studied time for 30 years. Finally, one day he found a piece of information in a tiny detail. This made him very excited. However, this hint was slightly out of Long Chen's expectations. This is the Fiend God Buzhou Mountain. What he saw was the world within time, and as he explored it, it finally formed the shape of a mountain. In terms of shape, it was definitely the god-demon Mount Buzhou. That's right. Although I'm very familiar with this place, I've never been to the world within the mouth of the Fiend God. The origin dragon soul of the Void Universe dragons may very well be here. Now, Mo Xiaolang, Lingxi and the others' mission was still to urgently improve themselves. Long Chen told them to focus on getting stronger while he went to the Divine Devil Buzhou Mountain alone. Once upon a time, he had fought here. When he returned, this place was already different. This world, as well as the battlefield of gods and demons, had lost its usefulness. Times had changed, and the Sky Region Alliance was gone. Through the clouds, Long Chen discovered that there were more than a dozen Genesis gods on the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain. Each region had a creator ancestor god. Could it be that the creator ancestor gods also came to the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain to train? Long Chen found this strange. Although the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain was too cloudy, Long Chen could see the outside of the mountain at a glance. To him, the origin dragon soul was not as easy to hide as the world origin. After exploring the stars for a while, he was basically sure that it would be difficult to find it outside the mountain. Then, he would have to enter the mountain to find out. Vaguely, he seemed to find another world inside the mountain. Outside the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain, Long Chen could vaguely hear immortals talking inside the mountain. The reason why there were creator ancestor gods here was because they saw that the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain was not bad, and there were many hidden resources. Hence they divided this place. After all, in terms of world grade, this was a primeval grade world. Compared to some creator ancestor gods' worlds, it was much more stable. Of course, the primordial ancestor gods of the 5th era, who owned the original incipient grade world, wouldn't consider this place. Most of the primordial ancestor gods belonged to the 7th era and some 6th era. Most of the territories belonged to the 6th era primordial ancestor gods. Of course, these creator ancestor gods came from nearby worlds. If they were from distant worlds, they would not have bothered to come here. They treat this as their own territory. This is a little troublesome. If I want to enter the world inside the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain, I will need their permission. It seemed so. Although it was a little troublesome, it was not insurmountable. For the origin dragon soul, Long Chen was willing to do anything. He probably knew these creator ancestor gods, so at this time, he found a familiar one. Back when he first came to the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain, he had met the Donghua Great Emperor Lord and obtained the Divine Sword Demon Pagoda. The world that the Donghua Great Emperor Lord was in was called the 3 Continents and 10 Islands Immortal World. He called himself the 3 Continents and 10 Islands Immortal Elder. And below him, the creator ancestor god of this world was also here. He was called the Donghua Imperial Ancestor. The 3 Continents and 10 Islands Immortal World was a 6th-tier mixed essence realm world. Therefore, the Donghua Imperial Ancestor god of the 7th era was born in the middle of the era. His strength was about the same as the Satsuma Demon Ancestor and the others. In terms of world origins, he had 2 more than Long Chen. Of course, Long Chen felt that the Donghua Imperial Ancestor would be easier to talk to because of his friendship with the former Donghua Great Emperor Lord. Unexpectedly, when he just arrived and was about to speak, a handsome man in brocade robes with long hair fluttering in the wind and holding a golden long sword rushed into the sky and shouted, "Who are you? This is the territory of the Donghua Imperial Ancestor. Are you here to snatch territory?" Long Chen was a little stunned by his shout. He hurriedly said, "Donghua Imperial Ancestor, of course not. I am not interested in your territory." Long Chen. The moment he saw Long Chen, the Donghua Imperial Ancestor thought of his world, the Dragon Sacrifice Continent. The Dragon Sacrifice Continent was now famous. It was impossible for the founding ancestor gods not to know about it. Humph! You are here to mock me. You have the Dragon Sacrifice Continent. Of course you don't need to occupy such a broken place. But I have no enmity with you. Why do you have to humiliate me? The Donghua imperial ancestor asked warily. Seeing that he was being sensitive, Long Chen explained. You misunderstand. Actually, I came here because I wanted to enter the interior of the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain. But I didn't expect that the ancestral gods would claim this place as their own territory. So I walked around. When I was young, I had a master and disciple relationship with an expert from the immortal world of the 3 continents and 10 islands. I thought it would be easier to talk to you, so I came. You were once a master and disciple of my descendant. I once received 2 weapons from him in this divine demon Buzhou Mountain. Furthermore, I wandered this place with the identity of his disciple. Long Chen was telling the truth. You are his disciple. The Donghua imperial ancestor thought that Long Chen was his master. At this point, his tone was slightly better as he said, Then let's talk about it after we get down. Long Chen followed him and landed on the ground of the Fiend Celestial Buzhou Mountain. He hadn't been here for a long time. After leaving the mountain, he had always been in battle. Now that he was back, he felt a sense of familiarity. After all, this was the first place Long Chen had come to after leaving the Dragon Sacrifice Continent. You want to go inside? The Donghua imperial ancestor asked. That's right. He didn't know Long Chen's current ability, so he smiled disdainfully. You know why we occupy this place? Because the land here is vast. We can let the gods and demons of our world come here to train. After all, the situation of every world was too bad now. Everyone was too weak, especially in the 9th, 8th and 7th eras. Speaking of this, Donghua imperial ancestor laughed even more and said, How boring, how boring. We are all creator ancestral gods. We can just build our own world. Why are we fighting over this place? To tell you the truth, it's because we feel that the world inside the fiend god Buzhou Mountain is extremely vast and strange. To be honest, Long Chen had never studied it, nor had he carefully entered to take a look. Hearing this, he remembered that he actually also wanted to go in and take a look, but he didn't have the chance. I see. Occupying this place is actually equivalent to occupying the entrance. We have dozens of people to slowly excavate the world inside. So now you know why I reacted this way when you said you wanted to go in, right? The Donghua imperial ancestor said. Long Chen thought for a while and said, I also want to go in and explore this time. Can you let me in once? The Donghua imperial ancestor wanted to shake his head, but he remembered something. He sighed and said, No matter what, you are the savior. It was you who allowed me to survive until now in the Doomsday Battle. I shouldn't have stopped you, and I should have returned you a favor. But what? I have an agreement with the other ancestral gods. We have formed a united front, forbidding anyone but us from entering. They are also often inside. With your ability, if you are discovered after entering, it will be a big problem for me. So, I can't let you in. This was troublesome. Long Chen insisted. What if I am not discovered at all? This is very important to me. I hope you can help. There were too few Genesis ancestral gods like the Satsuma demon ancestor. If the Donghua imperial ancestor was the Satsuma demon ancestor, he would definitely respectfully send Long Chen in. That was why Long Chen liked the Satsuma demon ancestor so much. Chapter 3456. What? You are clearly the 9th era ancestor god. Not only did you defeat the 8th era ancestor god, but you can also defeat the 7th era ancestor god? Who? Nightmare ancestor god? Donghua imperial ancestor didn't know what happened at the instant demonic stone, so he didn't believe it. But in fact, even if he knew, he wouldn't think much of it. This was because Long Chen had relied on a sneak attack that day. Drought demon saint ancestor and silver succubus demon ancestor didn't show their strength, and there were other ancestor gods. Long Chen, on the other hand, had never truly fought a 7th era ancestor god alone before. Moreover, it was one born in the middle of the 1st era, so he was still a little vague about his true strength. When Donghua Imperial Ancestor mentioned Nightmare Ancestor God, Long Chen could only nod and say, "That's right. I defeated Nightmare Ancestor God before. Although she was born at the end of the First Era, she's not weak." Donghua Imperial Ancestor curled his lips and said, "She's all right. She doesn't have any offensive ability and isn't much stronger than the 8th Era Ancestor God. If that's all, I advise you not to cause trouble for me. Your master-disciple relationship with my descendant is useless against me." In the end, letting Long Chen in was fine, but he was worried that the other ancestor gods would find out and target him, so he didn't want to take the risk at all. "Then tell me, what kind of strength do I need for you to let me in?" Long Chen asked. He had a rough idea of what Donghua Imperial Ancestor was thinking. "You have to at least defeat me." "Unfortunately, you can't do that," Donghua Imperial Ancestor blurted out, revealing his absolute confidence in himself. "Then, maybe we need to leave this fiend god Buzhou Mountain and find a remote place to have a quiet battle," Long Chen said directly. "You want to challenge me?" Donghua Imperial Ancestor didn't expect this at all, so he was quite shocked. Long Chen said helplessly, "It's not a challenge. It's just that I have something I need to do, and you're worried that I'll be discovered by the other ancestral gods. You also said that I have to defeat you. That's why I'm left with this method. Speaking of which, you can't be worried that you're not my match, right?" Donghua Imperial Ancestor was, in fact, not very mature. Long Chen's provocation instantly angered him. He said, "How is that possible? Forget it. Since you saved my life, I will give you this chance. If you really have the ability, no one will say anything after you enter. I can also say that you sneaked in without me knowing." Actually, he wasn't a bad person. He was just afraid of getting into trouble. Moreover, the Doomsday War was also on his mind. He couldn't really reject Long Chen. "If that's the case, I'll wait for you over there." Long Chen pointed in a direction. He left first, and the Donghua Imperial Ancestor could secretly follow him later. It was normal for him to leave privately for personal matters. No one would pay too much attention to where he went. About 15 minutes later, Long Chen and the Donghua Imperial Ancestor met alone in a relatively remote place. To be honest, Long Chen was looking forward to this battle. Previously, he had Mo Xiaolong's help against the Nightmare Ancestral God. Fighting for the instantaneous demonic stone wasn't considered a direct battle. This was the first time he was facing a powerful 7th-era founding ancestral god. "Come on, let me see what you're capable of with such big words. If you're only at the level you dealt with that black-robed man, it's far from enough. If we weren't controlled back then, it would be easy to deal with that black-robed man." Although the devouring dragon servant was the key, they didn't really think highly of it. Perhaps at this time, some founding ancestral gods thought that Long Chen's great achievement back then was largely due to luck. After all, his current strength wasn't enough to convince everyone. The Donghua Imperial Ancestor held the golden sword. This long sword was the source of his world and had scorching heat. It was called Dongyang. Although Long Chen's slaughter had endless space, there was only one source of the world. Therefore, in terms of divine power, it was far inferior to Dongyang. Buzz! With a heat wave surged. Long Chen was trapped in the scorching world. The surrounding stars gradually changed. Among them, the Donghua Imperial Ancestor was like a towering mountain, like the scorching sun at noon. Billions of rays of light erupted from his body. Its law wasn't fire, but sunlight. It was a scorching light. He held Dongyang with both hands. At this moment, under his power, it could be said that Long Chen was completely suppressed. In front of him, Long Chen was an insignificant existence. Attack! The Donghua Imperial Ancestor was high and mighty, looking down on Long Chen. He was waiting for Long Chen to attack. He thought highly of himself and was too lazy to make the first move. Long Chen was also too lazy to say more. When slaughter came out of his flesh and spine, his whole body was covered with blood-red dragon scales. He was a true primordial blood dragon. When it came to battle mode, even if his source of the world was far inferior to the Donghua Imperial Ancestors, on the battlefield, he could vaguely be compared with the Donghua Imperial Ancestor. Blood Wheel Sword. Long Chen didn't say anything. Using the dragon blood as a guide, he attacked violently. He had never suffered a direct attack from a founding ancestral god of this level. Of course, He used the Blood Wheel sword to test its ability. Facing Long Chen's familiar move, the Donghua Imperial ancestor was disdainful. He shouted loudly and held Dongyang with both hands. The moment he attacked, thousands of sword Dao immediately appeared. Purple Qi from the east. A rule power erupted. Behind him, the source of the endless source of the world suddenly turned into a purple mist, rolling over endlessly as if it had filled the entire world. In the end, it completely engulfed the blade. After Dongyang was engulfed by the purple mist, its whole body also turned purple. Break! In an instant, the Blood Wheel sword collided with the purple Qi from the east. Because it was a head-on collision and not a sneak attack, it was the first time Long Chen felt the terrifying impact of the source of three worlds. Although Long Chen was still more heaven-defying in terms of rule power, Long Chen's Blood Wheel sword was too weak. This was the reason why Long Chen's Blood Wheel sword was forced to retreat. Long Chen, you're boasting too much. The Donghua Imperial ancestor was still laughing, and there was a hint of pride in his voice. It's still early. Under the suppression of the opponent, Long Chen's sword momentum changed. He took back all the dragon blood and infused it with the ancestral spirit. For a moment, the power of the sword changed greatly. Soul Slayer sword. The second rule power swept out. Slaughter collided with the purple Dongyang again. This time, the rule power of the Soul Slayer sword rushed into the Dongyang. Even with the protection of the source of the world, it still impacted the ancestral spirit. With three sources of the world, the ancestral spirit naturally had three parts. Long Chen's Soul Slayer sword came suddenly and naturally suppressed the opponent. The Donghua Imperial ancestor cried out in pain and directly retreated with the Dongyang in his hand. Obviously, this time, the ancestral spirit was injured, and he was at a disadvantage. However, he was not weak. One rule power was enough to force Long Chen to use two. Because he retreated quickly, although the Soul Slayer sword was powerful, it did not really hurt his foundation. The Donghua Imperial ancestor was a little unhappy to be at a disadvantage. He was also a competitive guy. At this time, he reversed the sword momentum and took the initiative to attack violently. Rising Sun from the east. The sword stabbed out with a beautiful intent. Like the rising sun, the Dongyang burst out billions of rays of light, penetrating through. It seemed that the Donghua Imperial ancestor was also an elegant person. Even the name of the rule power was so vivid. However, its power was more direct and surpassed that of the purple Qi from the east. Violet Qi came from the east, and the sun rose from the east. These two natural laws had the ability to connect. In truth, the violet Qi had completely erupted, becoming the rising sun of the east. Within that rising sun, there were millions upon millions of sword Daos that were closing in on Dragon Dawn. Life-taking dragon diagram. Although he was at a disadvantage in terms of power, Long Chen had always won in terms of technique. Now, it was the same with the life-taking dragon diagram. He did not directly collide with his opponent's sword will. Instead, he used slaughter as a brush to draw the life-taking dragon diagram in the void. With the life-taking rule power, he revived the dragon diagram. It was as if he had directly drawn it on the Donghua Imperial ancestor's body. Boom! Before the rising sun, the life-taking dragon diagram activated. Yes! The Donghua Imperial ancestor realized that the divine dragon diagram on his body would bring about a fatal threat to him. Under such circumstances, if he continued to move forward, he could destroy Long Chen, but it would obviously be a lose-lose situation. Under such circumstances, he withdrew the power of the rising sun and poured it into his body. The violent power of sword will forcibly blasted the life-taking dragon diagram out. However, the Donghua Imperial ancestor was still very clear about the instant crisis of death. He began to truly realize that Long Chen was not so easy to deal with, and there was a risk. At this moment, Long Chen was no longer passive in front of him. Instead, he rushed forward violently, holding the slaughter in one hand. At this moment, billions of blood dragons flew in rage and flew in the midst of the slaughter. Humph, don't be careless. The Donghua Imperial ancestor roared and once again held the east sun with both hands. The power of the rising sun had rushed into his body, but now it was being redirected again. The loss was not great. At this time, the Donghua Imperial ancestor added new rule power to it, truly forming the peak destructive attack of the 7th era origin ancestral god. Be careful of your life. Like the sun in the sky. The east sun was raised, shining brightly like the sun in the sky. The most scorching light was seen by Long Chen. This was the Donghua imperial ancestor's strongest attack. From the Donghua imperial ancestor, Long Chen could guess the strength of the Satsuma demon ancestor, Drought demon ancestor, and the others. Before obtaining the origin dragon soul of the Void Universe dragons, it would be very difficult to fight 1 against 3. Of course, his focus was all on this sword. Blood-devouring Berserk Dragon Sword Prison. In terms of rule power, this rule power was really superior. Its power was terrifying. Long Chen's current attack was unusually ferocious, condensing all his power. Billions of divine dragons formed a sword formation. When it burst out, it was also very powerful. It was not inferior to his opponents like the sun in the sky. However, Long Chen knew that if they fought like this, it would be impossible for him to truly crush his opponent. Maybe I have to borrow the power of time. Therefore, outside the blood-devouring Berserk Dragon Sword Prison, an illusory chain was wrapped around his left hand. Chapter 3457. Emperor Ancestor Donghua. Divine Sword Dongyang. His sword momentum shone like the sun in the sky. As for Long Chen, although the power of origin of the world was not as good as his opponent's, he had the advantage in that his rule power was strong and full of murderous intent. The true might of the ancestral dragon was on full display. This was a clash of the strong. It was precisely because Long Chen predicted that the bloodthirsty Berserk Dragon Sword Prison would not be able to completely destroy his opponent's attack that he had entangled the world's origin source, time, in his left hand. The time chain was in a state of nothingness. Before the massacre rule, the time chain in Long Chen's hand was like a swimming dragon, rushing forward. It passed through the violent sword qi that was like the sun at high noon and instantly entangled, binding Emperor Ancestor Donghua. Buzz! In a short moment, Emperor Ancestor Donghua encountered the power of time. At that moment, his movement was greatly affected. So Dongyang's sword momentum was also affected. Therefore, Long Chen did not say a word. Wherever the massacre went, the blood-sucking Tyrannosaurus sword qi burst out with tens of thousands of feet of divine dragon sword qi. The blood-colored sword light completely suppressed the rule power at this time. In an instant, Emperor Ancestor Donghua, under the restraint of time, was completely broken, and his whole body was submerged in this chaotic sword Dao. Countless massacre Tyrannosaurus dragons roared around him. Of course, they did not attack together, because it was the blood-sucking Tyrannosaurus sword prison, which was still under Long Chen's control. Emperor Ancestor Donghua helplessly found that, not to mention the surrounding blood-sucking Tyrannosaurus sword prison, even the time chain on his body was quite difficult to break free. Obviously, he had lost. After all, Long Chen had already suppressed his rule power, completely trapping him in a crisis of death. If Long Chen wanted to kill, he would indeed be doomed. I admit defeat. Although Emperor Ancestor Donghua was still in shock, he had to admit it. You are much stronger than I imagined. It seems that you have inherited the ancestral dragon's inheritance, and your strength is still increasing, while our creator god's strength is fixed. I really envy you. Emperor Ancestor Donghua lamented when Long Chen put away time and massacre. He now also admitted that he had underestimated Long Chen. Please look. At this time, Long Chen used Death's Shadow and enveloped himself in it. Under the protection of Death's Shadow, it was as if he had disappeared from this world. If I go in like this and keep my guard up, the chances of the other elder gods discovering me shouldn't be high. You don't need to worry, Long Chen said. Imperial Ancestor Donghua could roughly feel the effect of this shadow of death. Indeed, if Long Chen really wanted to go in, with this ability, it would not affect Imperial Ancestor Donghua. Moreover, he had already said it. Fine, I'll let you in. However, I have to warn you not to tell anyone that I was the one who let you in. Also, there are a few 6th-era ancestral gods on Mount Fiend God Buzhou. They are far more powerful than us, having been born in the 6th era. You have to be careful of them. Once you're captured, it'll be very difficult for you to enter again. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. Long Chen remembered it. Imperial Ancestor Donghua sighed again and again. He was probably not very satisfied with himself. After all, the ancestral gods could not become as strong as Long Chen. He was still very envious of Long Chen. Next, Long Chen and he agreed on some details. To be on the safe side, Imperial ancestor Dong Hua would first return to Mount Fiend God Buzhou. Long Chen would sneak into his area 2 days later, and then enter the interior of Mount Fiend God Buzhou. For the origin dragon soul of the Void Infinity Dragon, waiting 2 days was nothing. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Long Chen shrouded himself in death's shadow and sneaked in. Soon, he arrived at Mount Fiend God Buzhou. He found the area occupied by Imperial ancestor Dong Hua and sneaked in. In fact, at this time, Imperial ancestor Dong Hua did not notice his arrival. If he had known this would happen, Long Chen would have sneaked in from the beginning. On Mount Fiend God Buzhou, he had to wait for the mouth of the demon to appear. Otherwise, if he forced his way in, it would obviously cause a commotion. When I first set foot on this Mount Fiend God Buzhou and saw the mouth of the demon, I did not expect that today, I would enter for the origin dragon soul of the Void Infinity Dragon. Long Chen was still a little emotional. Mount Fiend God Buzhou was a place of great significance to him. After waiting for a while, the mouth of the demon finally appeared. Long Chen rushed in without saying a word. Inside the mouth of the demon, he found that it was actually a whole new world. Around him, there was darkness everywhere. Outside Mount Fiend God Buzhou, there was black fog everywhere. Inside, the amount of black fog was dozens of times more. Even when Long Chen came here, he could not feel how big this world was. The endless black fog could hide too many things. A dark world. The key was that there was no sound at all. It was as if it was at a standstill. Even the particles in the endless black fog were not moving. Everything was terrifyingly silent. No wonder these ancestor gods found this place strange and wanted to occupy it. That is indeed the case. The time only gave him a hint of Mount Fiend God Buzhou. As for where it was exactly, he was not sure. This might require him to spend a lot of time searching. Furthermore, he could not make too much of a commotion, lest he alarm the creator gods who occupied this place. Go down. Above him was the outside of Mount Fiend God Buzhou. Long Chen tried his best to go down. If it really existed, it would be in the deepest part. If it were outside, and if it were easy to find, it would have long been discovered by others. It would not have been Long Chen's turn. Time passed quietly. Black fog. Endless black fog. When he first entered, Long Chen would never have imagined that after wandering around here for 10 days, all he could see was endless black fog. Apart from the time he went out to rearrange the Death Realm Dragon Gate, he had always stayed here. He had also left many Death Realm Dragon Gates in the interior, which he could enter directly in the future. After a few more days, there was still no discovery. Long Chen calculated that there were less than 15 days left before the battle with Saint Ancestor Hanba and the others. If he could not find the origin dragon soul, then he would have to face the revenge of the 3 in this state after 15 days. Ancestor Dong Hua is about the same level as them. He is not as vicious as them, but he is still very powerful. If I really have to face the 3 of them for revenge, I'm afraid this battle will be very difficult. It was originally 2 against 3, but I was too confident and boasted. Now it's my turn to suffer. Although he was teasing himself, Long Chen was not afraid or worried. At most he would fight to the death. As long as he was alive, nothing would be a problem. So what if he was beaten up? However, if that was really the case, Lu Yu would definitely feel bad. In order not to make her feel bad, Long Chen also felt that he could not lose. The key lies in the origin dragon's soul. Because of this, Long Chen became more patient and carefully searched. He was constantly in the shadow of death, and at this critical moment, he also met other ancestor gods. They were the ones who occupied this place. Basically, they were all elder gods of the 7th era or higher. Amongst the elder gods of the 7th era, there were those who were born at the end, middle, or beginning of an era. Generally speaking, those who were born at the beginning of an era were existences who were extremely close to the end of the previous era. They were the top existences among the ancestor gods of the 7th era. On this day, Long Chen heard the conversation between the 2 ancestor gods. In the depths of this place, there is a dark lake. It is very deep, and several ancestor gods of the 6th era have entered it, but they could not reach the bottom. Moreover, it is the most stable place in this place. It is probably the most mysterious place in the myriad worlds. That's strange. Let's go down and take a look. Forget it. I went down once and did not find anything. However, the lake is very cold. Even I, an ancestor god, would feel cold. What do you think? While they were chatting, they left into the distance. However, they did provide Long Chen with a new clue. In the depths of this direction, Long Chen hurriedly went down. Based on their conversation, there was a high chance that the thing that Long Chen was looking for could be found there. He kept going down. All of a sudden, Lin Fan felt his hair stand on end. He did not know if it was a hallucination, but when he turned around, he saw a pair of pitch-black eyes looking at him from behind. However, when he turned around, there was no sign of life within a boundless radius. What's that? Long Chen felt a chill run down his spine. However, he could not find the source of it. In the end, he even thought that he was being overly sensitive due to nervousness. After a while, nothing else appeared. Long Chen was focused on the origin dragon's soul, and gradually forgot about it. However, because it was surrounded by endless black fog, the interior of Fiend God Buzhou Mountain was much larger than Fiend God Buzhou Mountain itself. Therefore, that cold and mysterious feeling was always present. After much effort, Long Chen finally found the lake that the two ancestor gods mentioned. It was a pitch-black lake that existed at the bottom of God Fiend Buzhou Mountain. It was surrounded by mountain walls. Obviously, outside the mountain walls was the outside of God Fiend Buzhou Mountain. This meant that the interior space was actually connected to God Fiend Buzhou Mountain. Perhaps the information is in there. Standing outside, Lin Fan could not feel how deep the lake was at all. A terrifying gloomy aura rolled up. Even the lake water was not ordinary. It was extremely cold, countless times colder than the water in the Sky Demon Sea. This lake was actually not big. If he had not heard the conversation between the two ancestor gods, it would have been very difficult for Long Chen to come here. After taking a deep breath, Long Chen quietly entered the lake. Since it was a lake, his arrival would definitely cause ripples. The moment the ripples appeared, a loud roar suddenly rang out. Who dares to barge into our territory? It was a woman's voice, sharp to the bone. Chapter 3458. When Long Chen came out of the lake, he saw a woman standing in front of him. Her face was covered in frost, and she had long dark green hair. Her eyes were dark, and her skin was snow white. Her figure was graceful, and she was extremely cold. The moment he saw her, Long Chen thought it was Li Xuanji. After all, their temperaments were too similar. However, this woman had a terrifying aura. It was even colder than the lake below. Thus, Long Chen knew who she was. Back in the Fiend God Buzhou Mountain, she had a certain relationship with her world. Li Xuanji, Mo Sang, and the others had a great relationship with this world. Yes, it was the Nine Yin Ancestor Realm, an eternal level world. Long Chen and the Dark Sky Region Lord had a conflict in the past. And this woman was the ancestor of this group of women, the existence who had created the Nine Yin Ancestor Realm. Her name was Demon Ancestor Nine Yin, because the world she created was born in the Sixth Era. Of course, she was the Sixth Era's ancestral god. Now, Long Chen could barely deal with the Seventh Era's ancestral god, but the Sixth Era's ancestral god was far inferior. Among the many ancestral gods, only the Sixth Era's ancestral god was considered strong. The Fifth Era's ancestral god was an overlord, and the Fourth Era's ancestral god was the ruler of the myriad worlds. Junior Long Chen greets Demon Ancestor Nine Yin. Since he had been discovered, Long Chen spoke politely. He wanted to see if this Demon Ancestor Nine Yin would give him a way out and let him stay. After all, there were all kinds of ancestral gods. It's you. Demon Ancestor Nine Yin's attitude was cold, and her eyes were cold. Her expression was as cold as ice as she said, "Do you know that this world has already been occupied by dozens of us elder gods? This is already our territory, and no outsiders are allowed to enter." Who allowed you to enter? Long Chen acted as if he didn't know anything and said, "Occupy and divide, I don't know about that. However, this is the common territory of the myriad worlds. How can you all occupy it for yourself? I used to come here often in the past and didn't know about this. Of course I came here on my own." The Nine Yin Demon Ancestor said, "We didn't announce it to the outside world. However, even if you didn't know before, you should know now. So, you must leave immediately." Otherwise, even if I'm polite to you, the other creator gods won't be polite to you. Of course, Long Chen wouldn't leave. Therefore he said, "That's not very kind of you. Would the Ancestral Gods Alliance agree to such tyrannical occupation? Without the Ancestral Gods Alliance's approval, why should I leave this place? All right. I don't want to argue with you, but I just want to take a stroll around this place. Once I'm done, I'll naturally leave." When she spoke up to this point, killing intent actually appeared in the demon ancestor Nine Yin's eyes, and she said, "If you still don't leave, then I'll have to drive you out." Demon ancestor, how did you survive the Doomsday Battle? Have you forgotten? Long Chen countered. During this period of time, he was a little depressed. The attitude of these creator gods changed too quickly. The Nine Yin demon ancestor sneered. That's all in the past. Moreover, you were mostly lucky to be able to complete this battle. Why? Do you want the entire Myriad Worlds to be deeply grateful to you and continue to listen to you as the ruler of Myriad Worlds? Dream on. Long Chen roughly understood that this might be the thoughts of the majority of the creator gods in the Myriad of Worlds. It was very depressing, but there was no helping it. This was the reality. Even among the ancestor gods, there were those who were cruel and unscrupulous. I'll count to 3. This is your last chance to scram. The Nine Yin demon ancestor said coldly. No need. Long Chen directly opened the Death World Dragon Gate and entered. However, he came out from another place within the fiend god Buzhou Mountain. This place was relatively close to the lake. Even if the 6th era ancestor god was here, Long Chen didn't intend to waste time. If there were no problems, he was prepared to force his way into the lake to take a look. Naturally, he wouldn't clash head-on with the Nine Yin demon ancestor. When he returned from the Death World Dragon Gate, he heard the voice of the Nine Yin demon ancestor. She was speaking directly to the entire world. Everyone, pay attention. I saw Long Chen sneaking in from the lake. Although he escaped in front of me, with his personality, he clearly won't leave this place. Everyone, please pay more attention. If he still hasn't left, I feel that there's no need for us to be polite to him. Long Chen actually came in. Who the hell let him in here? He snuck in by himself. The Myriad Worlds used to be his world. Maybe he's more familiar with this place. We can't let him wander around here. Otherwise, more and more people will invade our territory in the future. We must unite and form a strong force. Everyone, look for him. We must drive him out completely. For a moment, the entire world was in chaos. It was originally quiet, but with the arrival of dozens of ancestor gods, it became extremely restless. Countless black mists seemed to be rolling. In fact, Long Chen was near the lake. However, the Nine Yin demon ancestor seemed to know that he wanted to enter the lake, so she stayed outside. She stood barefoot on the cold surface of the lake. Without the frost on her face, she looked somewhat beautiful. No wonder the master of the Dark Heaven Domain and Mo Sang look like ice beauties. It turns out that they inherited this guy's power. Long Chen was speechless. With her around, it would be difficult to enter the lake. Moreover, as time passed, many more ancestor gods came to her side. Among them was Emperor Ancestor Donghua. His expression was cold as he pretended that it had nothing to do with him. However, no one suspected him. They were discussing. You still haven't discovered him? No, he might have left. The Nine Yin demon ancestor said, It's not like you don't know Long Chen's personality. I feel that he won't leave easily before he gets what he wants. My intuition tells me that he's definitely still here. Then what's the solution? Everyone thought for a long time. Finally, one of the ancestor gods suggested, Isn't his base camp the dragon sacrificial continent? We can just send a random 7th-era ancestor god to the dragon sacrificial continent and let him cause a ruckus there. Long Chen will definitely return with his tail between his legs. The Nine Yin demon ancestor nodded. That's a good idea. I'll leave it to you. Get there as soon as possible. With your speed, 1 or 2 days should be enough. For the entire organization, this was also a meritorious service. Therefore, he didn't hesitate and immediately left for the dragon sacrificial continent at the center of the Myriad Worlds. Despicable. Long Chen especially hated it when others targeted the dragon sacrificial continent. Therefore, he was a little angry at this time. Fortunately, Luiyue is still there. If that ancestor god causes trouble, Luiyue can restrain him. However, since they came up with this idea, they will definitely send another one. I don't have much time. I have to find a way to sneak in. While Long Chen was thinking of a way, the 9 demon ancestor actually brought several 7th-era ancestor gods, including Emperor Ancestor Donghua, into the lake first. Not long after, they disappeared without a trace. After that, many other ancestor gods also entered. Among them there were about 10 7th-era ancestor gods and 2 6th-era ancestor gods. All of them were very terrifying. One of them seemed to be the supreme ancestor god of the refining sun divine realm. His name was Saint Ancestor Xueqi. The other one came back from the separation of the origin world. Long Chen wasn't too familiar with him. The group of them entered for a long time, but there was no news. Seeing that the ancestor god was about to arrive at the dragon sacrificial continent soon, Long Chen didn't have much choice. He quietly used the shadow of death to protect himself and secretly entered the gloomy lake from a corner. How cold! There was a bone-chilling feeling that made his whole body uncomfortable. This was a black lake filled with gloomy and cold black lake water. The bottom was truly a bottomless pit. This time, Long Chen didn't seem to be discovered when he entered. However, he was still careful and slowly went down. What are they doing? Long Chen was a little suspicious. Right at this moment, he felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if something was staring at him from all directions. However, after checking several times, he found nothing, not even an ancestral god of creation. What's going on? He felt that it was getting weirder and weirder. First, he told June and the others to be on guard at the dragon sacrificial continent. Then, he went down alone. He left many Death Realm dragon gates in the surroundings, so he could directly come here. Even those ancestor gods, Demon Ancestor 9 and the others are gone. Long Chen was a little puzzled. Either they went down to a deeper place, or they were in hiding. As he continued going down, Emperor Ancestor Donghua suddenly secretly communicated with him. He said, "Don't move. Next, you will step into Demon Ancestor 9 Yin's 9 soul-binding array. We are all hiding in the surroundings, waiting for you to fall into the trap." Fortunately, with Emperor Ancestor Donghua's reminder, Long Chen stopped. In fact, there was nothing in front of him, but this was the strength of the 6th-era ancestor god. She had set up this trap, and Long Chen still hadn't discovered it. He felt a little more grateful to Emperor Ancestor Donghua. Long Chen pretended to be careless and stopped. He looked left and right, then walked to the side. Using the perception of time power, he explored and finally found the outline of this 9 soul-binding array. Basically, all the passages leading down were blocked by this 9 soul-binding array, but there were 1 or 2 gaps. Long Chen looked like he didn't know anything at all. He wandered around and finally arrived at one of the gaps. Suddenly, he sped up and rushed through the gap. He passed through the 9 soul-binding array that was hard to discover and headed towards the depths of the lake. Chase! Demon Ancestor 9 was furious. He didn't expect the other party to see through his array diagram. Now he could only chase. Chapter 3459. Being chased by 3 6th-era ancestral gods and more than a dozen 7th-era ancestral gods was a very dangerous thing to begin with. If they were in outer space, they would be able to catch up to Long Chen in an instant. But this was a cold lake. The deeper one went, the colder it got. Furthermore, it was black, and the cold lake water could hide many things. Even the ancestral gods couldn't see through it. Whoosh whoosh. Long Chen broke through the layers of water, but he could clearly sense that the pursuers were getting closer and closer. Long Chen, don't waste your energy. Hurry up and surrender. I gave you a chance last time, but don't even think about leaving safely this time. The 9 demon ancestor's cold voice seemed to ring in Long Chen's ears. 10,000 times time domain. What Long Chen was doing was speeding up the flow of time around him. His speed was basically determined by how quickly the domain spread into the depths of the lake. Because time wasn't affected by the lake bottom, Long Chen's speed was relatively fast. Because of this, Long Chen was able to just barely keep moving forward despite being chased by the powerful elder gods. Moreover, he was able to continuously activate the Death Realm Dragon Gate. In this way, it would be much easier for him to return to this place in the future. They couldn't catch up to Long Chen at all. In fact, the gap between them was getting smaller and smaller. After 15 minutes of high-speed pursuit, the ancestral dragon's body was nearly frozen solid, but he still hadn't reached the bottom of the lake. He hadn't discovered anything. At this point, Long Chen was starting to doubt whether what he'd obtained from time was real. Suddenly, he was in mortal danger. It's that sacred ancestor Xueqi. Long Chen thought of this existence. He was once the supreme god and devil of the burning sun god realm. He was most proficient in archery, and he was famous throughout the myriad worlds. Of course, it was because of Saint Ancestor Xueqi. The essence of Saint Ancestor Xueqi's world was the bow and arrow. The perfect combination of bow and arrow gave rise to the power of heaven. Although he couldn't catch up to Long Chen, his arrow could, and it would pose a fatal threat to Long Chen. That was when Xueqi's arrow arrived. At the critical moment, before the fatal danger befell him, Long Chen opened the Death World Dragon Gate and rushed into the Death World. Then he quickly closed the gate. Even so, some of the power of the divine arrow still rushed in, causing the entire blood sea of the Death World to explode, roll, and even overturn. Fortunately, he wasn't injured. However, his advantage of widening the gap had been interrupted. This made Long Chen very depressed. However, after thinking about it carefully, he thought, I'm now at the bottom of the lake. They don't know where I left so many Death Realm Dragon Gates. Now that I've improved greatly in the aspect of slaughter, it'll be very difficult for them to erase the traces of the Death Realm Dragon Gates. I can go back at any time. Thinking of this, he was in a much better mood. He waited in the Death Rain for a while and heard from Luiyue and Lingxi that the ancestor god that the Nine demon ancestor had sent to the dragon sacrificial continent had already arrived and was confronting Luiyue. When Long Chen returned to the dragon sacrificial continent, he immediately saw that ancestor god. He originally wanted to cause trouble, but he didn't expect that just as he arrived, Long Chen and the other ancestor god of the 7th era had already arrived. What, you want to cause trouble? Although this ancestor god was also an ancestor god of the 7th era, he was born at the end of an era and wasn't very strong. He should be weaker than Luiyue. Therefore, Luiyue said, he won't dare to cause trouble. I'll stop him, so you can rest assured. Seeing that there were two opponents and that he didn't know what Long Chen was capable of, he wasn't afraid. However, demon ancestor Satsuma made him apprehensive. Long Chen, you know your place in the end. Even if I can't do anything to you today, you won't have a good ending if you go against so many of us. Today I came alone, but if we find out that you're still running to our territory, I reckon that when the ancestor god of the 6th era arrives, I'll see how you're going to deal with it. You can escape in other places, but I'd like to see how you're going to escape in this dragon sacrificial continent. There were trillions of divine dragons on the dragon sacrificial continent. This was Long Chen's foundation, a place that he had to protect. The opponent was right. If the ancestor god of the 6th era came here in anger, Long Chen naturally wouldn't be able to leave. There had to be a head-on confrontation. This was the most serious threat to the opponent. With that, the ancestor god swaggered around and left. If someone of that level really comes, what should I do? Luiyue was worried again. When she became good friends with Long Chen, she realized that she really needed to worry about him all the time. Then I can only find what I'm looking for as soon as possible. Long Chen said faintly. At this time, this ancestor god would probably inform Mount Buzhou about the situation here, and they would probably send powerhouses to his base to suppress him. Now that the burden on the dragon sacrificial continent was too heavy, Long Chen could no longer take it back to his god nation. Don't worry, before you come back, I'll help you block those people, Luiyue said firmly. Her logic was that she had to help Long Chen and repay his kindness. Compared to this, the other ancestor gods were simply too far apart from Long Chen. Don't worry, I can handle it. Actually, Long Chen wasn't afraid. Even if they came, they couldn't do anything to him. After all, this place was open and aboveboard, and the Ancestor God Alliance was in charge. Among the Ancestor Gods, there were too many who were willing to help him. It was just that Long Chen wanted to rely on himself for everything and didn't want to trouble others. He bade farewell to everyone and came to the Death Rain. At about the same time, He found an exit that was least likely to be near those ancestor gods and immediately returned to the ice lake. When he appeared here, there was still some commotion. Demon Ancestor 9 and the others were still patrolling nearby. They could feel the faint commotion. He's here again. Chase after him. For a moment, the dozen or so ancestor gods were furious. Long Chen, you've repeatedly ignored our advice and forced us. Don't blame us for being ruthless today. We've already said that this is our territory. The pursuit began once again. But this time, Long Chen was experienced, so his opponents couldn't immediately grasp his position. Taking advantage of the chaos, Long Chen went deeper. Before seeing what he was looking for with his own eyes, Long Chen wouldn't discuss it with them. Now, they thought that Long Chen was just causing trouble. At the same time, they were worried that Long Chen was snatching their territory. Just where is it? Long Chen's eyes darkened. Like a fish, he dove deeper and deeper into the lake. He had a feeling that if he still hadn't found the origin dragon soul and sacred ancestor Xueqi caught up, he would still have to flee. Next time, there would probably be many ancestor gods heading straight for the draconic continent. Not at all, not at all. He found Time and tossed it into the lake, letting it lead the way. To his surprise, Time actually trembled. Then, like a long snake, it slithered through the lake and led Long Chen deeper into the lake. Naturally, its target was the origin dragon soul of the Void Aeon Dragon. Wonderful. The appearance of hope made Long Chen's entire body excited. This scene was exactly the same as the Battle of Doomsday. Back then, it was slaughter that led Long Chen to the origin dragon soul of the primordial blood spirit dragon. If only I'd known, I would have taken out Time earlier. Long Chen was extremely excited. He flew at breakneck speed, and with the help of the 10,000-fold time domain, not even the 3/6 era's ancestor gods could catch up to him. At this distance, sacred ancestor Xueqi couldn't lock onto his position and attack him. Finally, in the depths of the pitch-black lake, Long Chen saw a true blue radiance. It was like a sapphire at the bottom of the lake. This place was too well hidden. Could it be that no one could see it? The bottom of the lake was also very vast. Without Time to guide him, he probably wouldn't be able to find it. Excited, Long Chen rapidly approached. Finally, he saw that it was an ice sculpture in the form of a divine dragon. Furthermore, it was a lifelike Void Aeon Dragon. It wasn't very large, and it was attached to the mountain wall with its head facing upwards. It looked like it was about to climb out of the bottomless abyss. The Origin Dragon's Soul. Long Chen was certain that this was the Origin Dragon's soul, but the question was, why was it in an ice crystal state? Furthermore, it seemed to be sealed. It didn't even react to Long Chen's arrival. This made Long Chen understand that he had to take action. Only then would the origin dragon soul of the Void Aeon Dragon belong to him. I can first bring it back to the time tunnel to study it. With this thought in mind, Long Chen approached the ice crystal divine dragon sculpture and reached out to grab it. But as he neared, he discovered that there was something like a swamp around the ice crystal sculpture. It was like a swamp of time. Long Chen's hand was trapped in it, unable to move it away. Long Chen. At this time, the creator gods found his position and descended. They surrounded Long Chen, all of them looking very aggressive. In truth, they were also very troubled by Long Chen, because they knew that Long Chen's death reign allowed him to travel through this place at will. This was originally their territory, and it was naturally very depressing to let an outsider travel through it like that. Everyone, please don't be angry. Let's talk things out, said Long Chen hurriedly. Didn't I already say all the good things to you? Now it seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't leave this place easily. Even if you do, you'll come back again and again. The demon ancestor 9 wanted to attack, but she knew that Long Chen would still escape. When that happened, it would be another round of pursuit. The only way was to go to his dragon sacrificial continent, where he wouldn't be able to escape. This is the last time. Everyone, this is the last time I'll come here. As long as you promise me that you'll give me some time to take this away, I swear I'll never come here again. Long Chen said very sincerely. You want to take this lousy stone away? Chapter 3460. Crappy Stone. Long Chen was startled for a moment. This ice crystal dragon was extremely dazzling and beautiful. How could it be a broken stone in their eyes? Moreover, from the moment they arrived until now, their gazes had never landed on this ice crystal dragon. Logically speaking, since this thing was so special, they should be attracted to it. Could it be that they can't see the ice crystal dragon? In their eyes, it's just a crappy stone. This must be a trick of the ancestral dragon. Otherwise, it would have been taken away over the past billions of years. In fact, I might be the only one who can see it. Long Chen, are you sure you won't come back if you take this stone away? You can also swear an oath. Sacred Ancestor Xueqi wasn't that angry at Long Chen. He knew that Long Chen wasn't someone to be trifled with. Moreover, he had a close relationship with the primordial war ancestor, so it was best not to offend him if possible. In this regard, the Nine-Een demon ancestor was slightly different. The Nine-Een demon ancestor wanted to teach Long Chen a lesson. However, the leader of this group was Sacred Ancestor Xueqi. Of course, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi was puzzled by Long Chen's words. He approached the stone that Long Chen had mentioned, while Long Chen dodged to the dragon's tail. At this time, Long Chen was surprised to find that his palm was directly touching the ice crystal dragon without the slightest restriction, nor was it affected by the swamp of time. Click! A stone appeared in his hand. It was a stone from the wall of Mount Fiend God Buzhou. It had been torn off from the ice crystal divine dragon. However, when Long Chen looked closely, he realized that the ice crystal divine dragon did not have a chip on it. However, in their eyes, this strange stone might have a chip. There's something wrong with his head, said one of the creation ancestor gods. They looked at each other in dismay. Finally, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi said, "Let him take it. I want to see what he can do." With this, Long Chen heaved a sigh of relief. But before he obtained it, the situation wasn't optimistic. After all, he still had to think of a way to take the ice crystal dragon away in front of everyone. What he wanted to take away was different from what the elder gods had seen. At this moment, under the gazes of all the elder gods, he was facing a strange stone. Long Chen was thinking that perhaps time was the key to activating the attack of the Genesis dragon's soul. He took out a piece of time, then tossed it into the air like a whip as he prepared to wrap it around the crystalline dragon. However, when time came into contact with the time swamp, it stuck to it. Not only did it not change the ice crystal mystical dragon, but it also almost couldn't pull time out. Long Chen expended a lot of effort before he finally managed to pull time out, but the ice crystal mystical dragon didn't change at all. There's something strange about this strange stone. We can't let him take it away. It belongs to us. That was what the creator gods had seen just now. Long Chen had used time to attack the strange stone, and the world essence had been stuck to it. If it had been an ordinary stone, how could such a thing have happened? Therefore, the Nine-Shade Devil ancestor was certain that the strange stone was not as simple as it seemed. From the changes in their gazes, Long Chen could sense that things were about to get troublesome. If I don't get it as soon as possible and they interfere, things will get even more difficult. After all, they know my goal this time. As long as they stand guard here, there's nothing I can do. His heart was in a rush, and after some thought, he decided that adding the Dragon of Time to the Time Swamp was his final chance. It was like adding the Bloodwheel Sword to the Slaughterer Sword. Since time doesn't work, then I'll try adding the Dragon of Time. This was his most profound understanding of time. Long Chen's left hand wrapped around time, and it stretched out like a divine dragon, dancing around Long Chen's body. On his right hand, a little dragon of time was born. Under Long Chen's control, this heaven-defying little dragon fused into time. Clink, clink. The countless rings on time began to vibrate. The illusory image of a dragon was attached to time. At this moment, time had transformed into a true divine dragon, and it circled around Long Chen. The iron chains had become the dragon's skeleton. Break. He brandished a section of time, and with a sudden fling, the illusory divine dragon charged towards the ice crystal dragon. Time was attached to the peak strength of billions of divine dragons. The chaotic power of the time particles. Ding. This time, Long Chen was even more speechless. This was because his attack, which he was extremely confident in, had actually been repelled by the ice crystal dragon. It was unknown what the Void Infinity Dragon had set up, but Long Chen was still unable to succeed despite using all of his skills. The most troublesome thing was that when the dozen or so ancestral gods saw that Long Chen's attack had been repelled, they naturally began to doubt the strange rock in their eyes. It's definitely something good. This belongs to us. We can't let Long Chen take it away just like that. Chase him away. We'll talk after we get it. For a moment, there was simply no room for discussion. With 3 6th-era ancestral gods leading the way, the dozen or so creator gods surrounded Long Chen, completely sealing off any escape routes. The pressure from the 3 6th-era ancestral gods was enough. Emperor Ancestor Donghua was also among them. At this time, he was rather helpless. He could help Long Chen twice, but he couldn't help more. Besides, if it was something good, he hoped that he could have a share. You can scram now, Demon Ancestor 9 said coldly. Surrounded by them, Long Chen was still rather calm. His brain kept turning, and he was still thinking of ways to crack this thing. He said to everyone, please listen to me. To tell you the truth, this is something left behind by the mystical dragon race. It is of no use to you at all. If you can't even see it, how can it be of any use to you? I'm not lying. If I'm lying to you, you can come to the draconic sacrificial continent to find trouble with me. But they found it hard to believe. They wanted to dig it out themselves, to find out what it was. After all, they already saw this place as their territory. Buzz! The ancestral gods charged over. Long Chen could only escape through the Death Realm Dragon Gate. Once he was caught, he would at least be seriously injured, and he would be even further away from the Origin Dragon Soul in the future. What else can I do? Long Chen thought about it. If even time and the Dragon of Time didn't work, what else could he do? Origin Dragon Soul. If even the World Source doesn't work, then the Inheritance Blood Essence. There were only these 3 things that were connected. As they surrounded him, Long Chen couldn't care about anything else. He couldn't even care about his own safety. He forced out the part of the blood that belonged to the Void Cosmic Dragon, and threw it directly on the Ice Crystal Mystical Dragon. Actually, he didn't have much hope this time. But suddenly, there was an intense flash of light behind him, and a terrifying tremor. It was like an explosion. Rumble. In an instant, Long Chen was still in place, but the dozen or so ancestral gods were sent flying by the majestic force. Even the surrounding lake water disappeared, and a vacuum appeared. And at this time, Long Chen found himself drowned in the blue light. I did it. The most hopeless attempt had actually succeeded. It was precisely because this attempt was too simple that Long Chen hadn't thought of it before. After all, he had always used this method to unlock the origin dragon soul of a supreme divine dragon. Long Chen hadn't expected that the ancestral dragon would also be able to do it. This was called being too smart for one's own good. In fact, the origin dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon was waiting for the possessor of its inheritance blood essence. As for time, even if it obtained the world source and controlled it, it might not be the true inheritor. It only recognized the inheritance blood essence. That was why this scene happened. And now, everyone saw that behind Long Chen, the strange stone had turned into a blue, almost illusory, dreamlike mystical dragon. It raised its head, and the only thing it looked at was Long Chen. This was definitely the origin dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon. Not until then did the ancestral gods see what Long Chen saw. They were dumbfounded. Guys, I didn't lie to you, did I? This is the origin dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon. Like your world source, it's useless to others. However, it's very important to me. Today, I'm very grateful to all of you for helping me find this origin dragon soul. Long Chen will definitely appreciate you in the future. I will not disturb you anymore. Bye. When the origin dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon woke up, of course, Long Chen thought about bringing it to his world as soon as possible in case of other troubles. After saying this, Long Chen brought the origin dragon soul of the Void Cosmic Dragon to a place called the Eternal Whirlpool. The 4th floor of the Tower of Time was not large, and it would affect Long Chen's fusion. He wanted to do it in the Eternal Whirlpool. The ancestral gods saw Long Chen and the mystical dragon disappear in front of them. After they disappeared, the surroundings became dark, and the lake water that had disappeared returned. This place was very cold. Except for the demon ancestor 9, the others could not bear it. For a moment, the ancestral gods were dumbfounded. The third ancestral god of the sixth era said, "I thought he had the inheritance of the primordial blood spiritual dragon, but I didn't expect that he even has the inheritance of the void cosmic dragon. The void cosmic dragon is the ancestral dragon of the third era. Now that he has two ancestral dragon inheritances, two origin dragon souls, world source, and inheritance blood essence, they are all complete. His potential is much more terrifying." "I see. He came here to find the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon. This thing is indeed useless to us," Emperor Ancestor Donghua said. Actually, he was a little happy for Long Chen. After all, Long Chen had succeeded, and he was the one who helped him. He thought that with Long Chen's personality, if Long Chen became incomparably powerful in the future, he might very well receive his protection. Chapter 3461. Saint Ancestor Xueqi nodded. "This is a major event for the myriad worlds. We need to let the stronger ancestor gods know about it. As for whether they curb Long Chen's development, protect him, or guide him, that has nothing to do with us. I feel that we should avoid provoking Long Chen in the future. It's fine if he fails, but if he soars to the heavens, even surpassing the fourth epoch's ancestor gods, offending him now will not end well for us. It's good that he's grateful to us now." The nine-een demon ancestor did not think so. With the myriad world's current resources, it won't be easy for him to return to the peak of the ancestor dragon. In my opinion, those who are too dazzling and special find it hard to grow to the end. I think there are many in the Ancestor God Alliance who are wary of him. If one of them makes a move, Long Chen will be finished. To tell the truth, it's quite embarrassing that he took something so important from us today. There were others in the group who shared the same opinion. In the end, Saint Ancestor Xueqi concluded, "No matter what, let's not go against him personally. Otherwise, we'll be used as cannon fodder. If there's nothing else, let's disperse. I feel that this world might have other secrets. Let's hurry up and explore them. Since we're already here, why don't we go down together?" The nine-een demon ancestor suggested. "That works too." After experiencing the world of the Void Infinity Dragon's origin dragon soul, they felt that there might be other rewards if they went any deeper. Thus, the group continued forward. However, in less than an hour they stopped. Xueqi said, "I have a bad feeling about this. Let's not go any further." "What?" The nine-een demon ancestor was unconcerned. In truth, apart from her, no one else could withstand the cold. "All right, let's go." Just as she said those words, a devastating change occurred all of a sudden. The entire lake, the bottomless pit, suddenly closed. All of the lake water vanished, and the ancestor gods at the bottom of the lake experienced a violent contraction of the cavern walls. In an instant, the surrounding mountain walls pressed down, sealing off the entire space. They vanished without a word. From the space within Mount Fiend God Bujo, the lake had instantly shrunk, vanishing without a trace. It was as if it had never been there, without a trace. Everything seemed to stand still. About a quarter of an hour later, the lake started to appear again from a point. It expanded and finally returned to its original appearance. When it returned to normal, more than 10 human figures floated up from the bottom of the lake. After a while, the dozen or so ancestor gods slowly opened their eyes. At first, their eyes were blank, but after a while, their pupils condensed, but their expressions were slightly different from before. "All of you rise," said Xueqi. Everyone stood up and flew into the air. "From today onwards, we must use all our means to kill Long Chen and destroy the dragon sacrificial continent. We must pay any price, even if it's our lives." "Yes," the creator gods replied simply and directly. Their voices echoed throughout the entire area. Every single one of the creator gods acted very naturally, but at the same time, there was something unnatural about them. It was as if the most fundamental thing about them had changed, a strange transformation. Inside the eternal vortex, Long Chen naturally didn't know what happened next on Mount Fiend God Bujo. He had obtained the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon. His lover, siblings, elders, dragon emperor, and dragon attendants were all extremely happy for him. Even Yu Yu was the same. But Yu Yu had no choice but to return to the Satsuma demon realm. By this time, the news that Long Chen was going to fight against 3 ancestor Hanba and the others had already spread. Many creator gods had already gone to the Satsuma demon realm to await this battle. Among them, there were more than 1,000 9th-era ancestor gods. After all, Long Chen was a special person. He was going to fight 3 7th-era ancestor gods alone. Most people didn't believe it. It was precisely because they didn't believe it that they wanted to see it with their own eyes. Now that the myriad realms were in harmony, such arranged battles basically wouldn't happen. The ancestor gods probably felt that their days were a bit boring, which was why they were so enthusiastic about such things. Therefore, Yu had to go back and hold the fort. After all, the location Long Chen had mentioned was next to the Satsuma demon realm. At this time, Drought Demon and the others had already arrived. These 3 had been plotted against by Long Chen last time. They had a huge resentment in their stomachs that was waiting to be released. If it wasn't for the fact that it wasn't time yet, they wouldn't have been able to sit still. There were more than 1,000 ancestor gods around them, and more were coming. Of course, most of them were the weaker ones. Those above the 6th-era ancestor god level basically had no interest in this battle. You're finally back. I thought you'd be a coward. Where's Long Chen? Drought Demon said angrily to Yu. In fact, Long Chen thought that the news of him obtaining the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon would have spread throughout the myriad realms. But in reality, no one knew about it. Therefore, Drought Demon and the others didn't know what Long Chen was doing. It's not time yet. Why are you in such a hurry? When the time is up, he'll naturally come. Yu hated them now. She didn't understand why she had joined Drought Demon's group in the first place. At that time, Drought Demon had invited her, so she didn't think too much about it. Humph, that better be the case. If he doesn't have the guts to come, I'll take it out on you. Look at your skin, soft and tender. I like it. Drought Demon's gruff voice sounded. She's a demon. Do you want to have a human-demon battle? Moreover, it's a dog demon. Silver Charm Demon Ancestor laughed mischievously, as if he and Satsuma Demon Ancestor were a better match. Aren't you just a worm? Death Demon Ancestor teased. Screw you, you're still a corpse. The 3 of them teased each other, completely disregarding Yu. This caused the surrounding ancestor gods to burst into laughter. Because she had absolute confidence in Long Chen, Yu couldn't be bothered with them. She returned to her Satsuma demon realm and closed her eyes to rest. She believed that Long Chen would definitely come on that day and beat the crap out of these 3 fellows. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant when the time comes. Humph. Yu was already imagining that scene. Following that, the news spread more and more. The number of ancestor gods who would come exceeded Long Chen's imagination. However, no one disturbed Long Chen because of this. In the eternal whirlpool, Long Chen began to fuse with the origin dragon soul. At the same time, the world's origin source time played a very important role. First, the inheritance blood essence and the origin dragon soul perfectly fused, allowing Long Chen to become a void cosmic dragon. Then, time caused the appearance of the world's origin source and other changes. When time appeared, the world's origin source and the inheritance blood essence attracted each other. Before Long Chen could even touch the iron chain, it had already pierced through his body and reached the heart of the rule. Previously, Long Chen had split 1/10 of his primordial spirit with the massacre seal, becoming the slaughter ancestor soul. Long Chen had originally thought that this time, another 1/10 would become the time ancestor soul. However, there were new changes this time. Indeed, the time seal had transformed into the ancestor soul with 1/10 of his primordial spirit and entered time, to begin constructing the origin source of the world of time. However, the remaining 80%, along with many other seals, had also entered time. It was just that it existed somewhere in time, and was separated from the origin source of the world of time. Long Chen deeply understood the benefits of this. Previously, because most of his primordial spirit was still in the heart of the rule, once his body was destroyed, he would likely die. However now, he needed time to be destroyed, and so would the slaughter. Only then would Long Chen die. In the past, the inheritance blood essence of the void cosmic dragon was passed on to the primordial spirit. Now, the primordial spirit will probably become the ancestor soul, as if the inheritance of the void cosmic dragon has been divided. In reality, it hasn't. In the primordial spirit, the part that the void cosmic dragon inherited has already entered the 10th and constructed the origin source of the world of time. The rest is just an ordinary primordial spirit. As I obtain other world origins, it will be divided sooner or later. In the end, time stopped at the heart of the rule. As long as Long Chen didn't use it, it seemed to return to this place. It stayed where the primordial spirit used to be, as if the primordial spirit was too void and hadn't changed. In reality, when Long Chen didn't use the slaughter was fused into his spine. It seems that the situation in my body has been arranged by someone. From the beginning to the end, it should be related to the Dragon Jade Taoist seal. The slaughter of the physical body has been transformed into the origin source of the world, and the primordial spirit has also been transformed into the origin source of the world. If I obtain more origin source of the world, will my body be formed by the origin source of the world in the end? This was a very good idea. As for proving it, it needed to be done slowly. The origin dragon's soul led to the birth of a new origin source of the world. In time, the origin source of the world that appeared was a dark blue origin source of the world. It was different from the origin source of the ancestral gods, but it was more majestic and powerful. Gradually, Long Chen became a real void cosmic dragon. Time replaced the primordial spirit and appeared in the heart of the rule. Slaughter fused into the spine. One body, two ancestral dragons. The blood-colored origin source of the world of slaughter. The dark blue origin source of the world of time was the mystery of time. When he transformed into a divine dragon, Long Chen changed between the ancient blood spiritual dragon and the void cosmic dragon perfectly. Now, he no longer had the origin dragon soul and inheritance blood essence of these two ancestral dragons, because he was already a complete ancestral dragon. As long as he didn't want his life, he could separate the origin dragon soul and inheritance blood essence. However, that step naturally wouldn't happen again. Chapter 3462. In the following period of time, Long Chen was immersed in the rules of time. The essence of the world time had truly come to life from a state of stillness. Of course, Long Chen returned to the fourth floor of the Tower of Time. Here, he didn't care about the passage of time at all. He could roam freely in the rules of time of the void cosmic dragon. It was like a dream. By now, Long Chen's rules of time had reached a higher level, just like the rules of slaughter. He truly had the posture of an ancestral dragon. But he still felt that it wasn't enough. The path of cultivation seemed endless for him. During this long period of enlightenment, Long Chen completely forgot about the passage of time. It was only one day that Ling Shi said to him, "If it's not that urgent, then I'll need you to handle the matter with Lu Yuem." Oh, I almost forgot. Immersed in the ocean of rules, Long Chen almost forgot about this matter. He didn't even know how long he had been on the fourth floor of the Tower of Time. I'll go there now. Long Chen left the fourth floor of the Tower of Time. Satsuma Demon Realm. On this day, over 2,000 ancestral gods gathered outside the Satsuma Demon Realm. It was a spectacular scene. Of course, over 90% of them were 9th-era ancestral gods. The rest were 8th-era ancestral gods and a small number of 7th-era ancestral gods. As for 6th-era ancestral gods, they weren't interested in this level of battle. In fact, if it weren't for Long Chen's appointment, it wouldn't have been so dramatic. Satsuma Demon Ancestor. Where's your Long Chen? I've told you. This cowardly guy only knows how to escape and sneak attack. How dare he fight us fair and square? Even if it's noon, he should be here by now. Why isn't he here yet? Sacred Ancestor Hanba laughed mockingly. To be honest, he couldn't stand it anymore. The hatred of losing the instant demon stone that day made him extremely resentful. He'll be here soon. June was still full of trust. This little girl is really pitiful. Long Chen sent you to deal with us, right? In my opinion, if he doesn't come in 2 hours, you can take his place and play with us. You can't blame us for this. Long Chen is a coward. They spoke one after another, causing Lu Yu's anger to burn. She couldn't help but say, "He's not a coward. You have no right to talk about him. He's an ugly monster, a big worm, and a corpse. You're not even fit to carry his shoes." She could not bear to hear others criticize Long Chen. He was her idol, her hero. What did you say? The three of them could not hold it in any longer. They had been ridiculing and holding the upper hand, but now, they were being scolded by Yu Yu, causing them to lose face. If you have the guts, don't try to win with words. Just wait for him to come. What's the point of just mocking him? If you want to save face, just defeat him. There's no need to take advantage of words and let others look down on you. Yu wasn't afraid of them. Her words made Sacred Ancestor Drought Demon and the others lose even more face. However, as ancestral gods of creation, it was indeed very low level for them to nag. Then we'll wait for him to come. But if he doesn't come in a few days, then don't blame us for being impolite. Sacred Ancestor Hanba put away his mocking smile and said coldly. The quarrel finally came to an end. However, time passed in silence. It was very boring. Although no one said anything, they all suspected that Long Chen didn't dare to come. My guess is that it would be strange if he did. I heard that he's only the 9th era's ancestor god. Although he has the ancestral dragon's inheritance, the origin of worlds is too weak. These three are all ancestor gods with the origins of worlds. Long Chen is definitely not a match for one of them. Although Long Chen succeeded in his sneak attack during the fight for the instant magic stone, it doesn't mean that he can fight against the 7th era's ancestor god. I think that Long Chen is too confident. After the incident, he realized that he was bragging, so he doesn't dare to come now. That's not right. From the Doomsday War, he's not a coward. Otherwise, don't speak up for him. I'm looking down on him. He has the ancestral dragon's inheritance and is blessed by the heavens, but he's still acting like this. If I were him, I would have already unified the myriad worlds. In reality, no matter where he was, there were many people who hid in a corner and gossiped about him. Long Chen had encountered too many things along the way, so he understood that those people who were only fit to gossip in a corner were destined to be clowns their entire lives. His heart had long since become strong, so of course he had long since ignored these clowns. In one's life, one would definitely encounter many clowns. They were degenerate, shameless, and ignorant. On the path of battle, because of their dazzling brilliance, or even the not-so-dazzling brilliance, they would be envied and envied. They would hear countless disgusting words, but that didn't matter. As long as they quickened their pace, and walked out of the range of clowns, and walked out of the brilliant sky that no one could slander, it would be enough. One day, clowns would be ruthlessly slapped in the face by the light. Even among the ancestor gods, there were clowns like that. But at the very least, there were kind-hearted people like June. There were also people who didn't say anything, but still supported Long Chen. For their sake, Long Chen would win beautifully today. That's right. At this moment, Long Chen appeared between June and the Drought Demon Sacred Ancestor. He opened the Death Realm Dragon Gate and appeared here. When he appeared, the surrounding noise stopped for a moment, and all eyes were focused on him. Now, although he was late, his expression was calm, and there was a reassuring temperament about him. From this, it could be seen that he was absolutely not afraid of today's battle. My apologies, everyone, I'm late. Long Chen was indeed too immersed in the sea of time, and had forgotten the passage of time. He looked back and saw that the girl's eyes were slightly red, and her expression was agitated. She had thousands of things to say to Long Chen, but all of them were condensed in a single sentence. Defeat them. No problem. Long Chen also replied with two simple words. Turning back to face the three opponents, Long Chen smiled faintly, and said, "Thank you for coming on time to ask for a fight. This place is too close to the Satsuma Demon Realm, and it's not a place where you can fight freely. Please come with me." With that, he walked in a certain direction, and the ancestor gods scattered. "Coward, we thought you wouldn't dare to come. Since you're here, we'll settle the score." Drought Demon Sacred Ancestor and the other two chased after Long Chen. Behind them, all the other ancestor gods followed. Long Chen's indifference made them very curious. Could he really be confident? Many of the ancestor gods asked themselves this. In reality, although most of them didn't say anything, they all hoped that Long Chen would win. At least 4/5 of them, which was the majority. It was just that they didn't want to waste words with these clowns. A battle would always have a result, and the result would be the greatest counterattack against these clowns. These people also made Long Chen feel a deep warmth. Today, even if it was for them for June, he had to win beautifully. Sincerity would always be treated with warmth. The human heart, the divine heart, and the ancestor god's heart were all filled with warmth. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen found a place where he could fight. In a boundless starry domain. In the distance, the ancestor gods made way for them to fight. In front of Long Chen, the three ancestor gods of the seventh era eyed him covetously. Thinking back to the fight for the instant magic stone, their hearts were filled with boundless killing intent. At this time, they really wanted nothing more than to cut Long Chen into 1,000 pieces. However, Long Chen was very calm. Right now, there were faint blue dragon scales on his body. His entire person was in an illusory state, like a dream. Time flowed strangely around him like flowing water. The most eye-catching thing was the time chain wrapped around his left hand. It was like a living thing, like a divine dragon, coiling around his hand. Why has the origin of his world changed? Didn't he inherit the primordial blood spirit dragon's inheritance? Why is it different now? Why does this Long Chen seem like a completely different person? Now, the hearts of countless ancestor gods were filled with doubts. In the past, Long Chen was cold and bloodthirsty. But now, he was mysterious and ethereal, as if he did not exist in this world. But to Drought Dragon's sacred ancestor and the others, it did not matter. They only wanted Long Chen to suffer a crushing defeat. At this moment, Drought Dragon's sacred ancestor took out the origin of his world, raging flames. It was a dark yellow spear. It was dry and broken, but it was scorching hot, like a dried-up world. The argent succubus demonic forefather transformed into his true form. In the starry sky, he became a huge steel centipede. He was pure silver and shone with dazzling light. Every part of his body seemed to have an eye, and on top of his head was a huge eye. That was the origin of his world. As for the dead spirit ghost ancestor, his world's origin, dead souls, was the wooden staff in his hand. At this moment, it was also surrounded by endless gray resentment. His divine body was also faintly discernible, and resentment soared into the sky. Cold and gloomy roars were constantly produced from the dead souls. The three experts from the seventh era looked at each other. Without saying a word, they roared furiously. With the drought demon's sacred ancestor in the lead, they charged forward furiously. They tore through the endless starry sky and crushed toward Long Chen. The moment they attacked, the entire starry sky trembled violently. So powerful. The ancestor gods were very shocked by the attacks of the three. The 9th and 8th era ancestor gods knew that they could not withstand such an attack. They also knew that Long Chen was the origin of a world. Long Chen was incomparably calm as everyone watched, but in truth, he had already been preparing his laws. At the most dangerous moment of the battle, he suddenly looked at Yu and the other ancestor gods and said, "Do you believe that I can end this battle in 3 breaths of time?" Of course, who would believe that? The necromancer resentment was born from the soul of the wooden staff, condensing into a gray serpent with a total of 18 heads. In an instant, it rushed toward Long Chen from all directions. Once one was struck by the death spirit resentment, the death spirit resentment would obviously enter one's body. The 18 snakes of death spirit resentment would entrench themselves within one's body and use the power of death to engulf one's entire body, bringing about a terrifying destruction. It was simply like a curse that would make one wish for death. How could the 3 ancestor gods not show mercy for Long Chen? However, at this time, Long Chen had just dealt with sacred ancestor drought demon. Without saying a word, he faced the necromancer ghost forefather. He did not use the chains of time, but instead stretched out a finger. The endless power of time rippled out from his finger like a dark blue ripple, instantly spreading out and affecting the necromancer ghost forefather and his necromancer resentment. Forbidden World. This was a new law from the Void Cosmic Dragon. The law of the Forbidden World was a brand new level of time stop, the pinnacle of the path of time stop. It was much more stable than the Eternal Xana. It was a world where time was completely forbidden. Bas. The effect of the Forbidden World was so powerful that the necromancer ghost forefather and his necromancer resentment suddenly froze, motionless. The gray serpent with 18 heads was basically still in the posture of attacking Long Chen. It was ferocious and terrifying. Even though it was motionless, it was still very frightening. The second breath had passed. In fact, the ancestor gods were holding their breath, because time had passed too quickly, and the battle was also frighteningly fast. In the blink of an eye, sacred ancestor Drought Demon was crippled, and even the necromancer ghost forefather was completely imprisoned. There was no sign that the time law could be broken. But at this time, Long Chen did not have time to rest. After all, when fighting with the necromancer ghost forefather, the silver succubus demonic ancestor was not idle. The huge eye on its head was its world origin, and at this moment, the world origin shot out a fierce silver light that pierced through the space. Silver succubus light poison. This was a strong metallic light, and also a type of poison. If one was hit by the silver succubus light poison, one's divine body would immediately fester and evaporate, and even the world origin would be affected. Because of the previous two ancestor gods, Long Chen was slightly slower. But in fact, when he used the Forbidden World, he had already used another Tao law. Time Demon Dragon. This was the strongest time law that Long Chen had used since becoming a void cosmic dragon. It was different from the Time Dragon. The former was a type of time reversal, while the Time Demon Dragon was a type of time compression and restraint. Roar. When Long Chen suddenly threw out the time chain, it directly transformed into an Iron Demon Dragon. Long Chen grabbed the dragon's tail. The entire Time Demon Dragon was huge, and about the same size as the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor, but also like the long whip in Long Chen's hand. Rumble. Because it was thrown out violently, it was terrifyingly fast. This was the time law and had the effect of changing time. With this advantage, before the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor's Silver Succubus light poison could hit Long Chen, the Time Demon Dragon had already fiercely whipped the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor's body. Crack. Under the ferocious impact, the Silver Sucker demonic forefather let out a blood-curdling shriek. Its body was almost split into two. As a result, the Silver Sucker light poison deviated from its course and shot upwards, destroying countless broken stars and several uninhabited planets. Rumble. All of them exploded. They turned into a sky full of stars, and fell down in a shocking manner. At the moment when the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor let out a miserable cry, the Time Demon Dragon, under Long Chen's control, directly entangled the giant centipede in the middle. The divine body of the Time Demon Dragon was the origin of the time world. Under the terrifying entanglement of the time law, the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor's body, which was several times stronger than Drought Demon divine ancestors, was directly crushed by the time law. Only the origin of the world, an eye, was able to escape from Long Chen's control. It was only then that the Time Demon Dragon turned into a time chain and returned to Long Chen's hand. In the scene, apart from the broken pieces of the broken stars, only the silver dust of the Silver Succubus demonic ancestor's body was left. In fact, the seemingly complicated scene only lasted for 3 breaths of time, or even less than that. Many of the processes were rapid and continuous. The 3 ancestral gods of the 7th era were defeated one after another. Drought Demon Divine Ancestor and the Silver Succubus Demonic Ancestor had their ancestral god bodies destroyed, leaving only the origin of the world. The Dead Spirit Ghost Ancestor was slightly luckier, but he was still trapped in the Forbidden World, unable to move. The Forbidden World was not without attack power. After a period of time, the Dead Spirit Ghost Ancestor's body would be invaded by the power of time stop, and his movements would become slower and slower. At this moment, everyone in the surroundings was suffocating and silent. In their eyes, there was only Long Chen, who had obtained victory, but was still calm and collected. In reality, it was very obvious that he was very confident in his own strength. Therefore, from the start to the end of today's battle, it was precisely because he had absolute confidence that he would say that the victor would be decided in 3 breaths. But he had indeed done it. Moreover, he had done it perfectly. Every law, every scene was full of shock. Again. At this time, Long Chen withdrew the Forbidden World and said to the Dead Spirit Ghost Ancestor, who was not seriously injured. The Dead Spirit Ghost Ancestor, of course, knew everything that had happened. He was in the battle, so he knew how terrifying Long Chen was. No more. The Dead Spirit Ghost Ancestor was trembling with fear. In his mind, Long Chen had become an existence that could not be provoked at all. Then the grievances between us have been resolved. We are all ancestor gods, and this was just a spar. I hope that we can live in peace in the future and protect the myriad worlds. Good, good, good. The dead spirit ghost ancestor was trembling so much that he could not speak clearly. At this time, he brought the world origins of drought demon divine ancestor and the silver succubus demonic ancestor to his side, and without saying a word, he fled dejectedly, leaving behind the ancestor gods who looked at each other in dismay and then burst into laughter. Of course, there were also those who had mocked Long Chen as much as possible before the battle, but now faced with such an ending, they could only blush. Chapter 3464. Sacred Ancestor Hidorigami's matter was finally resolved. Defeating them and deciding the outcome within 3 breaths had different effects. The latter reflected that Long Chen was more powerful than them. Therefore, not only them but all the ancestral gods around them, and then through word of mouth, it would have a certain deterrent effect on all the ancestral gods in the myriad worlds. A kind person would be bullied. Long Chen didn't want more people to bully him. At least these ancestral gods in front of him looked at him with an additional sense of awe. After all, almost all the ancestral gods here didn't think that they could defeat Long Chen. Everyone, please disperse. This battle was just an interlude for Long Chen. What he was most interested in now was to improve himself. Defeating 3 ancestral gods of the 7th era was nothing to him. In the group of ancestral gods, he could only be considered to be in the lower middle class. He desired to at least have the same position as the ancestral gods of the 4th era. Only then could he protect the dragon sacrificial continent and his family and friends while surrounded by ancestral gods. Today, it could be considered as seeking justice for demon ancestor Satsuma Yu. After that was done, Long Chen took Yu to the dragon sacrificial continent. Yu was now basically moving between the 2 worlds. She could do whatever she wanted. Anyway, from now on, no one would find trouble with her anymore. The days seemed to have calmed down again. Of course, the details of this battle were actually known by all the ancestral gods in the myriad worlds, especially the members of the Ancestral Gods Alliance. Some even personally went to Sacred Ancestor Hidorigami to ask about the battle. Long Chen inherited the inheritance blood essence of 2 divine dragons. One is the primordial bloodline dragon, and the other is the 3rd era's ancestral dragon, the void cosmic dragon, ranked 3rd among the 10 great ancestral dragons. Before the epoch, it was one of the most terrifying existences in the myriad worlds. It probably has the strength to kill the 4th era's ancestral god. Even the 4th era's ancestral dragon and 4th era's ancestral god were not concepts, let alone the 3rd era's ancestral dragon. In other words, Long Chen might eventually become the 3rd era's progenitor dragon. He might even surpass the void cosmic dragon because he inherited 2 types of essence blood. When the powerful ancestor gods heard this news, some of them were happy for Long Chen, but there were also some who felt uneasy. If such a heaven-defying existence was truly above the 4th epoch's ancestor god, then in the future, the myriad worlds would be completely controlled by a single person. It would all depend on that person's will. Another elder god said, "There's no need to worry at all. Given the current state of the myriad worlds, where would he find the strength to become the 3rd era's progenitor dragon? The myriad worlds are now in such a state. It would be a miracle if he could even become the 6th era's progenitor elder god." In fact, most people knew that this was indeed the case. The myriad worlds were no longer the same as before. They were exhausted to such an extent that it was extremely difficult to create a new ancestral god of the 4th era. Don't worry too much. This child is the lord of the myriad worlds. Before we return, the myriad worlds are still unstable. There's nothing wrong with his temperament. There's nothing wrong with him now. But how would you know about the future? Anyway, there's no need to care so much. Although he has 2 inheritances now, they're both world origins. Although he's a little heaven-defying, he can only defeat the 7th era's ancestor god. Do you think the 7th era's ancestor god is a threat? Of course not. So, it's not too late to wait until he can improve again. Even the creator gods didn't have the chance to become stronger. Among 10,000 people, there was an existence that could become infinitely stronger. This would always make them envious and fearful. Although Lingxi and Mo Xiaolang could become stronger, and Kitten could also recover to the level of the 6th era's ancestor god, they weren't as fearful as Long Chen. They were more envious. Void Universe Dragon, World Origin. Origin Dragon Soul. In the void of Xueqi Devil Domain, a dark shadow looked at the endless void. He must have found the world's origin from me and obtained the Origin Dragon Soul through the world's origin. In other words, if I hadn't given him the world's origin, he wouldn't have gotten it. Demon ancestor Qiyu was very confused. That was the inheritance of the third era's ancestor god. Why? Can he have the chance to improve himself, but I can't? What method do I have to obtain everything he has? Thoughts appeared in demon ancestor Qiyu's mind. Being above the fourth era's ancestor god and becoming the ruler of everything was his dream. It was the strongest part of his nature. He was the strongest among the fifth era's ancestor gods, but there was the fourth era's ancestor god above him. The most unbearable thing was that although it was just a small difference, he only had 1 vote in the ancestor god alliance, while the fourth era's ancestor god had 10 votes. It was a difference of 10 times, but it was just a small difference. Therefore, most of the time, this was what he was most unwilling to accept. A small difference was thousands of miles. Not to mention being above the fourth era's ancestor god. Even if I reach the level of the fourth era's ancestor god, I won't be restricted and suppressed anymore. Why can he do it, but I can't? Especially since Long Chen obtained time from him. Therefore, after hearing the news that Long Chen had become the Void Cosmic Dragon, he couldn't calm down for a long time. Of course, he didn't do anything. Chapter 3465. Yes. As expected, Long Chen was attracted. How do you know? In Long Chen's view, other than him, if there were other Origin Dragon Souls, others would not be able to see them. But this was only a guess, and he could not say for sure. It's just a feeling. It's in the depths of the lake. You didn't go deep last time, but this time, I went deep to take a look. Of course, I'm not sure if it's what you want. You'll have to see it yourself. Emperor Ancestor Donghua said very sincerely. Do the demon ancestor Jiuyin and the others know about this? Long Chen asked. Emperor Ancestor Donghua shook his head and said, they don't know. I felt it myself, so I came to tell you. It's more convenient to meet and talk. You can go back to the death world directly. Just bring me back. Although a month had passed, Long Chen had actually returned to that place a few times, but he did not go deep to explore. After all, the demon ancestor Jiuyin and the others seemed to be patrolling there all the time, and he also felt that the ancestral dragons would not hide the same thing in the same place. But Emperor Ancestor Donghua had given him such a clue. Long Chen thought about it and felt that there was no harm in taking a look. So he opened the death world and went in with Emperor Ancestor Donghua. Then, they found the passage to the inner world of Mount Buzhou. Let's go. You lead the way. The two entered quietly, and the surrounding was instantly surrounded by cold lake water. The cold was bone-chilling, and it was really uncomfortable. But for the Origin Dragon Soul, Long Chen endured it. It's below. Follow me, Emperor Ancestor Donghua said, and led the way. Long Chen shrouded himself in the shadow of death, and secretly followed Emperor Ancestor Donghua. He was always vigilant of his surroundings. He trusted Emperor Ancestor Donghua. After all, they had fought before, and he had some understanding of this person. How far is it? After a while, Long Chen really did not find anything, so he asked. It's here. Suddenly, Emperor Ancestor Donghua turned around and looked at Long Chen. His expression was normal, but there was a strange smile at the corner of his mouth, as though he had succeeded. This smile made Long Chen realize the existence of danger. Obviously, this was definitely a trap. Moreover, it was a trap set up by someone who had once helped him. Swoosh. As he laughed, Emperor Ancestor Donghua quickly disappeared into the lake. 9 soul binding array. Long Chen realized that he was trapped in an array diagram. This array diagram was very well hidden and only revealed itself when it was activated. Long Chen was brought to the core position by Emperor Ancestor Donghua. Boom boom boom. 9 demonic god statues appeared around Long Chen. Each of them was different, but they all gave off dense qi. They were sinister and cold, and they surrounded Long Chen. The demonic god statues had black ropes wrapped around their hands. These ropes had already bound Long Chen's entire body, making it impossible for him to move. This was the power of the 9-yin soul-binding formation. Even the two world origins were completely under its control. 9-yin demon ancestor. This woman appeared above Long Chen's head. Her expression was cold, and she held a black needle in her hand. That was the world origin. Now, without a word, she held the black needle and stabbed it towards Long Chen's head. There was only coldness and cold-bloodedness in her eyes. This gave Long Chen a feeling that she wanted to kill him. Emperor Ancestor Donghua lured me here, and this demon ancestor 9-yin wants to kill me. What's going on? Long Chen's heart was filled with deep shock. This matter had exceeded his expectations. He wanted to struggle, but the 9-yin soul-binding formation had trapped him. This was a trap set up by the 6th era's ancestor god. How could it let Long Chen break free so easily? Break. As the black needles pierced down, a cold and sinister aura filled the air. With a swoosh, under the threat of death, Long Chen's flesh and blood rapidly corroded and disintegrated. In the blink of an eye, only 2 world essences were left. Heavy injuries. His life was in danger. The black needle returned to the 9-yin demon ancestor's hand. There was no room for negotiation, and she immediately destroyed Long Chen's world origins. No matter how stunned Long Chen was, he knew that he was going to die. In fact, if not for his Yuan spirit entering time, he would probably be dead now. The attack of the world origin was truly terrifying. How can this be? He was naturally unwilling to die like this. The moment his flesh and blood were destroyed, the 9-yin soul-binding formation changed and loosened, giving Long Chen some space to move. Time Demon Dragon. Blood-sucking Tyrannosaurus Sword Prison. Under the control of his ancestral soul, the 2 world essences suddenly resisted. Long Chen was fighting with his life on the line. It was precisely because of this that he managed to tear open the 9-yin soul-binding formation before death arrived. Death World Dragon Gate. After breaking through the siege and changing the flow of time, he rushed into the Death World at the last moment and closed the Death World Dragon Gate. He finally escaped this life and death calamity. Requiem of Life. Dark green flames burned on his body. Time was at the core of the rules. Slaughter was at the spine. Long Chen's body quickly took shape based on this outline. He had just managed to survive from the brink of death. What happened? At this time, Lingxi and the others, who knew what had happened, all came to the Death World. Seeing how heavily injured Long Chen was, they were naturally shocked. It's that 9-yin demon ancestor. She was just there, but she was so vicious. When Li Xuanji saw the yin qi on Long Chen's body, she knew who had done it. She was actually most protective of Long Chen, and was extremely angry at this time. This is too exaggerated. Kitten also knew that Long Chen had escaped from death. Usually he would joke about it. At this time, he was actually very angry. It was clearly not a big matter, but the other party did not even care about the Ancestral Gods Alliance and directly wanted to take Long Chen's life. When Long Chen was recovering, he did not answer them. At least Long Chen was not dead, and it was a false alarm. However, the hatred was buried. Only when Long Chen was fully recovered did he face them like this. Big brother, what happened? Long Chen had also calmed down at this time. He thought about it and described the situation to them. After listening, they did not understand. Why did Emperor Ancestor Donghua, who had helped Long Chen before, suddenly change? They were completely unclear. Everyone looked at each other, unable to explain. At this time, Long Chen contacted Emperor Ancestor Donghua to ask for an explanation. However, Emperor Ancestor Donghua did not respond. His communication with them was also fruitless. Strange. Long Chen was not angry, but more curious. Emperor Ancestor Donghua has no reason to do this. Could it be that Demon Ancestor 9-yin forced him? But there is no need for Demon Ancestor 9-yin to do this. Could it be because Big Brother took away the Origin Dragon soul? In that case, there is no need to kill him. Now, the Dragon Sacrificial Continent was built on Long Chen. Once Long Chen died in battle, the entire Dragon Sacrificial Continent would probably be destroyed. After all, the world's origin was still in a fragile state. Why don't we first tell this matter to the Ancestral Gods Alliance? It's best if primitive war ancestor takes us there to see what the situation is. Lingxi suggested. Long Chen thought for a while and said, if it was an ordinary battle, it would be fine. But this is clearly a trap targeted at me, and the other party completely wants to kill me. I can't solve this matter by myself, so I can only ask primitive war ancestor for help. Wait a moment. I will go find primitive war ancestor. Look after the dragon sacrificial continent. If there is anything, tell me as soon as possible. Actually, Long Chen had pride in his heart. If things weren't out of his control, he would basically hold on and not want to trouble others. For example, the Void Aeon Dragon's world's origin and origin soul were basically handled by him. And he didn't bother primitive war ancestor in the battle of wits and courage with demon ancestor Qi Yu. But this matter made him feel slightly uneasy. It was a small matter for him, but with demon ancestor Nine Yin's craziness today, it was very likely that it would affect the dragon sacrificial continent. Since it was related to the dragon sacrificial continent, it couldn't be joked about. Soon, Long Chen arrived at the vicinity of the primitive warship. The primitive warship was rather special because it could move freely in the starry sky. Standing outside the primitive warship, Long Chen said, War Ancestor, I'm here again. Now the primitive warship was the same as the Ninely demonic territory, protected by thick protective arrays. Even other ancestral gods of the Fourth Era couldn't easily destroy it, let alone Long Chen. The primitive warship was currently one of the safest worlds in the myriad worlds. Primitive war ancestor soon appeared in front of him, his platinum body shining in the starry sky. His tone was amiable as he asked, You never come to me for no reason. Did you encounter any trouble today? I heard that you became a Void Aeon Dragon, and I haven't congratulated you yet. Among the Fourth Epoch's primordial ancestor gods, Primordial Ancestor was the one who took care of Long Chen the most and could converse with him happily. Long Chen said, Ancestor, I've encountered something strange and would like to hear your opinion. Speak. Long Chen told Primitive War Ancestor the cause and effect of this matter. Primitive War Ancestor patiently finished. After listening, he was also very puzzled and said, This is strange. Clearly, Demon Ancestor 9 has gone overboard. According to the current rules of the Ancestral Gods Alliance, intentionally killing other ancestral gods is a crime. It is destroying the foundation of the myriad worlds. If what you said is true, I already have a reason to arrest Demon Ancestor 9. Long Chen nodded. He also wanted to know. How about this? I will first tell this matter to the ancestral gods of the Alliance. After all, this is related to you and the Sixth Era's ancestral god. It is no small matter, and we need to respect the opinions of others. All right. Next, the primeval war ancestor conversed with the other elder gods. Long Chen couldn't participate in such discussions. After a while, the primeval war ancestor said, There's a conclusion. However, I have to go with you to Fiend God Buzhou Mountain first. Let the Nine-Shade Demon Ancestor explain the situation and see what they have to say. Chapter 3466. Of course, Long Chen also wanted to know why. He knew that the conflict between him and Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Donghua was far from a life-and-death battle. Perhaps there would be some unexpected misunderstandings. Either way, he wanted to know. All right, let's go. Long Chen's death reign was still the most convenient place for ancestor gods to move around. Long Chen led the primordial war ancestor through the death reign. He had left behind a large number of death dragon gates near Mount Buzhou. This time, he and the primordial war ancestor appeared directly inside Mount Buzhou. Of course, they were not in the lake. There was black mist everywhere, and no one was in sight. This place. The primordial war ancestor felt that this place was strange. It was slightly different from the space of the myriad worlds, but he could not pinpoint exactly what was different. Let's go down. The two quickly arrived at the lake. All ancestor gods inside Mount Buzhou, come to me. The primordial war ancestor's voice reverberated throughout the world. This was the majesty of the Fourth Era's ancestor god. Most of the ancestor gods here were from the Sixth and Seventh Eras. Upon hearing the primordial war ancestor's unique voice, they all hurried over and gathered respectfully at the lake. However, Judging from their expressions, they did not seem to know what was going on. They just looked at Long Chen and the primordial war ancestor in confusion. There were more than 40 of them. 6 of them were the 6th era's ancestor gods. Among them, Saint Ancestor Xueqi, whom Long Chen had met last time, and immortal ancestor Skycloud were here. He was not familiar with the other 4. Long Chen had not seen them the last time he came here. When Long Chen swept his gaze over them, all the ancestor gods present were puzzled. However, it was clear that only Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Donghua were missing from the crowd. Where are Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Donghua? The primordial war ancestor asked solemnly. The 4th era's ancestor god's sudden solemnity shocked all the ancestor gods present. They looked at each other. I saw them before, but they don't seem to be here anymore. Why didn't they come? Where did they go? The creator gods were all talking at once, but none of them seemed to understand what was going on. In the end, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi said, Battle Ancestor, I saw Demon Ancestor 9 about 2 hours ago, but he's gone now. I'd like to ask, Battle Ancestor, what business do you have with them? If you're not in a hurry, wait for them to appear. Just as Sacred Ancestor Xueqi finished speaking, the Primal War Ancestor said, All of you, help me find these 2 immediately. This was an order. Hearing this order, even though the elder gods were still confused, under the coercion of the Primal War Ancestor, they could only scatter and search for Demon Ancestor 9 and the others within Buzhou Mountain. Some of them entered the lake. Demon Ancestor 9 liked to stay there because it was very beneficial to her. Sacred Ancestor Xueqi remains. Long Chen whispered to the Primeval War Ancestor. Now that things had developed to this point, Long Chen found it odd. Previously, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi and the 9 Demon Ancestor were often together. Now that this matter had happened here, Long Chen felt that the Primeval War Ancestor should know something about it. The Primal War Ancestor gestured for him to stay. Then, the 3 of them headed towards the depths of the lake. This was a place where it was easier for Demon Ancestor 9 to hide. But this time, it was the Primal War Ancestor who had come. As long as she was still here, there was absolutely no place for her to hide. Long Chen, what exactly happened? Sacred Ancestor Xueqi asked in confusion. Long Chen recalled that when he obtained the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi did not make things difficult for him. Instead, it was the Demon Ancestor 9 who seemed unwilling. Now that he asked, Long Chen answered, Less than an hour ago, Emperor Ancestor Donghua came to my dragon sacrificial continent and tricked me into that lake. The moment I entered, I fell into the 9 soul-binding array of the Demon Ancestor 9. Immediately after, the Demon Ancestor 9 appeared. If I had struggled to escape, I would have been dead by now. Therefore, I want to know why the Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Donghua are working together to kill me. Them. Sacred Ancestor Xueqi was confused. That's strange. Why would they work together to kill you? That's impossible. Before you left, I also told them not to go against you. Although the Demon Ancestor 9 doesn't like you, it's definitely not to the point of killing you. If she did, she would also suffer. He did not believe it either. In truth, before coming here, Long Chen did not believe it either. He said, I experienced it myself, so there's no need to lie. I can't believe it myself. The Primordial War Ancestor came here to understand the situation from the Demon Ancestor 9 and the Demon Ancestor 9. But as you can see, they're not at Mount Buzhou. Clearly they've fled. The friendship between Long Chen and Patriarch Donghua was, in fact, hidden. If Sacred Ancestor Xueqi knew that Long Chen and Patriarch Donghua were actually on good terms, he would probably be even more shocked. The Primordial War Ancestor didn't say anything, but given his level of power, after searching for a while, he said to Long Chen, We've come too late. These 2 aren't here, nor are they near Mount Buzhou. They probably fled immediately after attempting to kill someone. Since they're fleeing, that means they're trying to escape punishment. He was filled with gratitude towards the Primordial War Ancestor, but he didn't say much. With Long Chen's personality, he preferred to silently repay others. Long Chen would never mistreat those who had helped him. A drop of water would definitely be repaid with a gushing spring. No need to thank me. You are also familiar with this person. He also admires you and has long wanted to help you. During the Doomsday, the first 6th era's ancestor god you saved was him. Origin Sword C. Origin Sword Ancestor Yuan. Long Chen recalled that during the Doomsday, Origin Sword Ancestor Yuan was attacked by the Sky Devouring clan and was very weak. It was at that time that Long Chen saved him. Later on, he even relied on him to deal with the 5th era's ancestor god Hunkin. I've already told him. You can directly go to the Origin Sword Sea and bring him to the dragon sacrificial continent. Alright, then I'll take my leave first. The Primordial War ancestor had matters that required his attention, and couldn't possibly follow him like a follower. Long Chen quickly arrived at the Origin Sword Sea. As expected, Origin Sword Ancestor Yuan was waiting for him there. This taciturn old man upon meeting Long Chen said gently, I heard about this matter. It's indeed very strange. However, if there are similar matters in the future, you can look for me. You are my benefactor. No matter what, this old man will definitely go through water and tread on fire for you. He was just like June. Although he wasn't as passionate as June, his heart was still burning hot. With these words of yours, I won't be polite in the future. Chapter 3467. Sword Ancestor Yuan was born in the middle of the 6th era. Even among the ancestral gods of the 6th era, he wasn't weak. Demon Ancestor 9 was born at the end of the 6th era, so he wasn't Sword Ancestor Yuan's match. Long Chen and Sword Ancestor Yuan returned to the dragon sacrificial continent together. At this time, the continent was still very peaceful. The gods and demons didn't know about the storm between the ancestral gods. Your world is indeed beautiful and magnificent. No wonder people are jealous. Sword Ancestor Yuan sighed in the sky above the dragon sacrificial continent. But he added, but to lure and assassinate them is too much. You're lucky to be able to come back alive. I think we can't let this matter rest. I think so too. Now they could only stay in the dragon sacrificial continent and wait for the result. Come, let's play chess to kill some time. Now that the ancestral gods of the myriad worlds were paying attention to Demon Ancestor 9's whereabouts, Sword Ancestor Yuan led Long Chen to play chess. Long Chen wasn't good at it, but under Sword Ancestor Yuan's guidance, he quickly became familiar with it. Playing chess can calm you down. Indeed, we need to be calm in such a situation. Inside Fiend God Buzhou Mountain. At the bottom of the lake in the deepest part, there were a dozen people. Most of them were surrounding two people. They were Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Dong Hua. Primordial War Ancestor had already searched this place. No one expected them to still be here. However, although they were surrounded, the two didn't panic. Instead, they had cold expressions. How dare you act on your own and ruin our plan? Now look, we were almost exposed, and the plan almost failed. It's all your fault. Now that Primordial War Ancestor is here, if we're exposed, how many of us here can survive? Saint Ancestor Xueqi lowered his voice in the crowd, but his expression was twisted. Most of the people around him were also aggressive toward these two. No matter what, we almost succeeded. Also, didn't we only expose the two of us? Even if the two of us die, we still have you. What are you afraid of? Didn't you make them think that you have nothing to do with us? The 9 Demon Ancestor coldly replied. You're wrong. We don't want the same thing to happen again. We're not that strong. It's not that easy to kill Long Chen and destroy the dragon sacrificial continent. Xueqi was still furious. Here he was the strongest, so he was the king. The 9 Demon Ancestor said, We've already been exposed, and all the ancestor gods are looking for us. We've lost our usefulness, so why don't we try again? The two of us will sneak into the dragon sacrificial continent. With our abilities, it won't be difficult to kill Long Chen and destroy the dragon sacrificial continent. As long as we can complete the mission, our lives are nothing. Moreover, no matter what, we've completely separated from you. This plan is completely feasible. As soon as she finished speaking, an ancestor god beside her laughed. This was the sacrificial god ancestor from the sacrificial god world. Long Chen had saved his life twice during the apocalypse. He said, "Do you think Long Chen is as stupid as you? I heard that primordial war ancestor has already sent a 6th-era ancestor god Yuan to protect him. You're not his match, so you'll only be cannon fodder. You dare insult me?" The 9 demon ancestors' killing intent erupted. In her eyes, sacrificial god ancestor was only a 7th-era ancestor god. Although he was born at the beginning of the era and his strength was close to the 6th era's ancestor god, he had no right to criticize her. "Silence!" Xueqi shouted angrily, suppressing the conflict between the two. The 9 demon ancestor glared at sacrificial god ancestor and said, "In that case, let's attack together." With 3 6th-era ancestor gods and a dozen 7th-era ancestor gods, it'll be easy to deal with them. The other 6th-era ancestor god, Sky Cloud, said, "That's not a wise move. You should know that Long Chen has the death rain, and it's easy for outsiders to help him. If we can't kill him in one strike, we might fail. That's why we need a surefire plan before we act. We can't act recklessly. Ancestral Emperor Donghua was a good idea for us, but you thought of it and didn't discuss it with us. If the 3 of us were around your 9 soul-binding formation from the start, Long Chen would already be dead. It's all your fault. Now that he's on guard, it'll be even harder to kill him." This was indeed the 9 demon ancestors' problem. With Sky Cloud's words, there was nothing she could say. "All right, all of you hide first. If there's a need for you, I'll definitely let you act. Long Chen is our prey, and everyone has the right to kill him." Xueqi's final decision was also the opinion of the majority of the ancestor gods. The 9 demon ancestor accepted her fate and didn't say anything else. Who else has a brilliant plan to break out of this predicament and kill Long Chen? At this time, Xueqi surveyed the crowd. "I do." Ancestor G God was the strongest among the 3 6th-era ancestor gods present, and he stepped forward. "Speak." Ancestor G God was brimming with confidence. "First, I feel that with the myriad of ancestor gods unable to find the 9 demon ancestor, as time passes, Long Chen definitely won't be able to sit still. Given his personality, he won't be able to endure this sort of restlessness. Furthermore, the mystery has yet to be solved. I believe that one day, he will bring the first origin sword ancestor here to continue his search." Continue. Xueqi felt that what he said made sense, which was why he allowed him to continue. The others also listened attentively. "We've already emphasized to him many times that this is our territory. If he shows up, I'll do my best to provoke him and use all sorts of excuses to drive him away. I'll force him to spar with me. I remember that he fought with 3 of the 7th era's elder gods not too long ago. He was able to defeat those 3 elder gods, so I bet his strength is very close to mine. He's a battle maniac, so he'll definitely want to challenge me." And then? Ancestor G God was brimming with confidence. "As long as it's a spar, given his character as a gentleman, the first origin sword ancestor will be watching from the sidelines. Our goal is to separate him from the first origin sword ancestor, and a spar is indeed the best method. When the time comes, the first origin sword ancestor's attention will be on me, and I will fight as usual, doing my best to match him. While everyone else is focused on the battle, Saint Ancestor Xueqi, who is proficient in archery, can prepare to shoot your arrow at the most suitable moment. With my entanglement and delay, your sudden attack will surpass everyone's expectations. With your ability, killing Long Chen in an instant will be no problem at all." At this point, everyone finally understood. Although it was a little complicated, the methods that could achieve one's goal were generally more complicated. Ancestor G God emphasized many reasonableness and analyzed Long Chen's mood. If things went smoothly, there was a high chance of killing Long Chen. If things didn't go smoothly, then nothing would happen. As long as Saint Ancestor Xueqi didn't carry out the final killing blow, all the foreshadowing would be normal. Many people would challenge Long Chen. As long as Saint Ancestor Xueqi didn't make a move, it wouldn't matter if Ancestor G God and Long Chen won or lost. As long as the origin of Long Chen's world is destroyed, the dragon sacrificial continent will collapse by itself, and we will have completed our mission. Finally, Ancestor G God concluded. Everyone began to ponder. This plan has a higher chance of succeeding. Furthermore, The key lies in my final attack. Therefore, even if the plan were to stop at any time, no one would notice anything. Under the situation you mentioned, Saint Ancestor Skycloud and the Demon Ancestor 9 can obstruct the other Ancestor gods while I carry out the final killing blow. With everyone focused on the outcome of the battle, this is highly possible. Moreover, this is taking advantage of Long Chen's belligerence and arrogance. This is the only chance to separate him from Sword Ancestor Yuan. Saint Ancestor Xueqi highly approved of this plan. In fact, the others couldn't find fault with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have thought that the two could be separated and killed in one strike. Of course, if the Demon Ancestor 9 hadn't acted on his own, Emperor Ancestor Donghua's plan could have killed Long Chen. Humph. Don't celebrate too early. Even I failed. Who knows what will happen when the time comes? Don't underestimate Long Chen. It's very likely that you won't last long against him. You might not even last until Saint Ancestor Xueqi makes his move. The only one who poured cold water on this plan was the Demon Ancestor 9. However, everyone knew that this was a personal conflict between her and Ancestor Ji God, so no one cared. Someone's coming. With Saint Ancestor Xueqi's reminder, the Demon Ancestor 9 and Emperor Ancestor Donghua completely fused into the stone wall beside them, leaving no trace behind. After a while, a female Ancestor God arrived. Seeing that they were scattered in the vicinity, each looking for clues of this strange world, she shook her head in puzzlement and didn't say much. Why is everyone gathered here? She was more familiar with Ancestor Ji God, so she came to his side. The Demon Ancestor 9 is often around here, so we want to search carefully. She might have hidden well enough to deceive even the Primordial War Ancestor. Ancestor Ji God said. Sword Ancestor Yuan also discovered that the 9 Demon Ancestor wasn't here at all. In fact, even the Primordial War Ancestor had come personally, and hadn't discovered the Ancestor God of Creation. Next place. After moving from the Death World, Long Chen easily arrived at Mount God Fiend Buzhou. He and Sword Ancestor Yuan kept a low profile and didn't inform the people here. Instead, they entered the lake and began searching. This place is indeed strange, especially the surrounding mountain walls. I wonder what would happen if we destroy them. I'm just worried that Mount God Fiend Buzhou will shatter, said Long Chen. Sword Ancestor Yuan had the same thought, so he gave up on destroying the mountain walls. The two continued down and soon reached the bottom. For the first time, they still didn't find any traces. I don't believe that if I stay here she won't appear. The 9 Demon Ancestor seemed to have evaporated from the world. This was too mysterious. Could it be that she hid in the starry sky and didn't enter a single world and didn't communicate with anyone? Who is it? At this moment, a white-robed Ancestor God rushed down from above. Long Chen focused and saw that it was Ancestor Ji. No, when he saw Long Chen and Sword Ancestor Yuan, his expression turned ugly. He asked, Long Chen, why are you here again? Naturally, I'm looking for the 9 Demon Ancestor. Long Chen replied indifferently. With Sword Ancestor Yuan beside him, he couldn't be bothered with this fellow. Unexpectedly, the other party sneered and said, looks like you must have explored this place from top to bottom to search for the 9 Demon Ancestor. Even the Primitive War Ancestor came in to search and confirmed that the 9 Demon Ancestor isn't here. Can you be stronger than the Primitive War Ancestor? I think you're just using this excuse to covet this world that we've occupied. The other party's tone was stern. Long Chen's attention wasn't on him. Seeing him making things difficult, Long Chen stared at him. He smiled and said, are you crazy? I already know what I want here. You guys are very interested in this place and want to occupy it, but I'm not interested. If you're not interested, hurry up and get out of our territory. Don't swagger in here every time. Do you think this place is your backyard? Let me ask you, without your permission, can I swagger around your dragon sacrificial continent? Don't think that you're great just because you're a victim. Ancestor Ji seemed to be really angry as he stared at Long Chen with bloodshot eyes. Sword Ancestor Yuan was still here. He was relatively calm and was about to slap this chattering fellow away. But at this moment, because of the loud quarrel, other ancestor gods were attracted. A total of more than 20 ancestor gods gathered here, including Sacred Ancestor Xueqi, Sacred Ancestor Skycloud, and another primitive ancestor god of the 6th era. What's going on? Sacred Ancestor Xueqi came to ask. Ancestor Ji was in a state of anger. He repeated the process and then said with a heavier tone, "We've told him many times that this is our territory. He even said that he wouldn't come here again, but he forgot about it so quickly. Clearly, he doesn't care about us at all. Perhaps we're nothing in his eyes." Ancestor Ji's words made many ancestor gods unhappy. They did occupy this place, but only Long Chen didn't listen to their advice and came here without even greeting them. After stirring up everyone's emotions, Ancestor Sacrificial God shouted loudly, "Long Chen, you are the inheritor of the Ancestor Dragon, and you can be considered to have saved the myriad worlds. You seem to be really high and mighty, as though all the Ancestor gods are protecting you. However, we are also the Creator gods. How can you look down on us like this? Let me tell you again, this is our territory." Long Chen didn't expect to get into trouble again. The matter with the 9 demon ancestor made him forget how important this place was to these ancestor gods. The last time he came here, he was chased by them. At that time, he did say that he wouldn't come here again. At that time, they gave him the opportunity to obtain the origin dragon soul of the void cosmic dragon. Now that he saw their angry eyes, he thought about it carefully. Entering without greeting them did hurt their pride. But he was also stubborn. Before he found the 9 demon ancestor, he couldn't give up the chance to come here. Therefore he said, "Everyone, this matter is indeed different from the last time. It has been half a month, and there's no news of the 9 demon ancestor. So I decided to come here again, but I have absolutely no intention of offending you." "You've already offended us, and you still say that? Long Chen, with your attitude, that's all you can do. I don't believe that you're really that special. In the future, you will rule the myriad worlds. At this time, we have to please you. The entire myriad worlds will help you find the person who wants to kill you. You're just an ancestor god of the 9th era. What right do you have to enjoy such treatment?" Ancestor Sacrificial God was in a berserk state. No one could stop him. Saint Ancestor Xueqi and the others were also embarrassed. But from their expressions, they felt that Long Chen didn't even greet them when he came here. He was indeed looking down on them. He's not just an ancestor god of the 9th era. You haven't heard of him before, but he defeated 3 ancestor gods of the 7th era in 3 breaths of time. Ancestor Sacrificial God, you're not his match. Forget it. An ancestor god at the side said in a strange tone. "I'm not his match." Ancestor Sacrificial God was enraged. He laughed and said, "I'm not his match. Do you think I'm like those 3 pieces of trash? How dare you say I'm not his match? How about this? Long Chen, do you have the guts to accept my challenge? I want to see what you're capable of. If you really beat me, I, Ancestor Sacrificial God, will be completely convinced by you. I'll leave Mount Fiend God Bujo and give my position to you. You can come here often. But if you lose, don't ever step into this place again. Do you dare?" He then turned back and said, "Brothers, don't blame me for taking matters into my own hands. I can't take this lying down. But don't worry, I definitely won't lose to this guy. I'm just afraid he'll be too cowardly to accept my challenge." For a moment, everyone looked at Long Chen. Saint Ancestor Xueqi stood up and pulled Ancestor Sacrificial God back, saying, "That's enough. Stop messing around. We can talk things over, but don't start a fight at the slightest provocation." After all, Long Chen had the primordial war ancestor's protection previously. It was normal for him to stop Ancestor Sacrificial God. "What do you plan to do?" Sword Ancestor Yuan asked. Long Chen thought about it. He still had to continue coming here because of the secret of this place and the fact that he had felt eyes watching him twice, so he had to stay here. Until he found out the truth. Therefore he said, "If I beat you, I can come and go as I please." That's right. Ancestor Sacrificial God was about to give up after being berated by Saint Ancestor Xueqi. but he immediately responded after hearing Long Chen's words. All right, let's meet outside. Chapter 3469. Long Chen knew that ancestor Ji Shen was born at the beginning of the 7th era. Among all the 7th era ancestor gods he had seen, ancestor Ji Shen was basically the strongest. Long Chen had agreed to his challenge so that he could stay here and investigate in peace. Long Chen still had many questions about this place, but if he was intercepted and obstructed every time he came here, it would be meaningless. Therefore, it would be best if he could get rid of all the troubles in one go by defeating ancestor Ji Shen. However, there was one question that needed confirmation. The last thing I want to ask is whether you alone can represent all of us. What Long Chen wanted was not just the agreement of ancestor god's sacrifice alone. Ancestor Ji Shen immediately turned to everyone and said, "Please believe me. Firstly, I will definitely win. Secondly, even if I lose, I will be the one withdrawing. His participation will not affect everyone." Ancestor Ji Shen was pleading. For a moment, no one said anything else. Moreover, a battle between ancestor gods was extremely rare in the myriad worlds. The ancestor gods all had the passion for battle in their hearts. They also longed to see a battle. Therefore, basically no one felt that there was a problem. All right, let's go. Since everyone had no objections, Long Chen naturally had no problem as well. The group walked out together. Not long after, they left Fiend God Buzhou Mountain to find a place to fight. In fact, they only needed to go to a place where there were no gods or demons. The myriad worlds could still withstand a battle of this level. Then I will go to the side. Sword Ancestor Yi Yuan nodded. After all, this was an open challenge from the ancestor gods. There was nothing to be concerned about. He also saw that Demon Ancestor 9 wasn't around, and Sacred Ancestor Ho Yi and the others were still here. After Sword Ancestor Yi Yuan left, only Ancestor Ji Shen was left in front of Long Chen. His robe billowed with his aura. He put away his previous resentment and became cold like an unsheathed sword. Ancestor Ji Shen soon displayed the peak of the 7th era's world origin power. Long Chen had 2 world genesis energies, but his world genesis energy was still inferior to that of the elder god of the 8th era, much less the peak of the 7th era. Of course, the origin powers of slaughter and time were different in nature from the power of the creator gods. They had to be singular, but they had to transcend everything. Long Chen was now small and exquisite. The sacrificial god ancestor was vast, majestic, and boundless. In terms of strength, of course, ancestor Ji Shen had an overwhelming victory. If he was in his prime, Long Chen would be like a child. However, this child was not ordinary. This battle was on the verge of breaking out. The world source of ancestor Ji Shen was a white book. When he placed the white book on his palms, golden words appeared on it. The golden words made ancestor Ji Shen's eyes look golden. Then, his whole body looked like it was made of gold, and the rules were formed on the white book. Its world origin was called God Offering Book. It has begun. While Sword Ancestor Yi Yuan was wholeheartedly focused on Long Chen's battle, Sacred Ancestor Ho Yi sneered. He and Sacred Ancestor Skycloud had been waiting for this moment. Now, I'm waiting for Ancestor Ji Shen to create the best opportunity for me to kill Long Chen in one blow. His bow and arrows were perfect for assassination. At this time, Ancestor Ji Shen and Long Chen had already begun fighting. In order to deal with Ancestor Ji Shen, Long Chen used 2 kinds of rules. He held the blood sword of slaughter in his right hand, and the chains of time wrapped around his left hand. On the other hand, Ancestor Ji Shen had been drowned in the golden light of the God Offering Book. His entire being had become incomparably holy and glorious. Perhaps Ancestor Ji Shen was testing the opponent. Whoosh! This was the first time the Elder Gods had clashed, and the spectating Elder Gods were all rather excited. This caused them to pay even more attention to this evenly matched battle. The glorious era had been destroyed, and everyone was more concerned about what Ancestor Sacrificial God would do in his anger. God Sacrifice Guard, descend from the heavens. Ancestor Ji Shen was extremely calm. He had expected Long Chen to have such a move. After his move was broken, he reached out with his hand and summoned from the God Sacrifice tome. God Sacrifice Guard. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, a huge golden object formed from golden characters rushed out from the God Sacrifice tome. It condensed into a golden general riding a warhorse and wielding a long spear. It was filled with killing intent. This was the God Sacrifice Guard, a force that was as domineering as an ancestor god. It was a force that could shake one's heart. Under the command of the God Sacrifice Ancestor, the God Sacrifice Guard, which consisted of war generals and warhorses, formed a phalanx. Roaring in unison, the war generals mounted their warhorses and charged forward, their hoofs trampling the starry sky, shattering it and causing all living things to tremble and wail. Boom boom boom. A terrifying impact pressed down on Long Chen's body. The God Sacrifice Guard's attack wasn't just a physical attack. It was a mental attack. It was like the end of the world had arrived. The ancestor gods wanted to know how Long Chen would deal with such a terrifying God Sacrifice Guard. In fact, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi even felt that this was a good opportunity. He had already prepared himself and was just waiting for the right moment to explode. But in truth, from start to finish, Long Chen had been much calmer than everyone had imagined. As the God Sacrifice Guard charged, he stretched out his left hand and gently flicked it, causing ripples to ripple out. Forbidden World. Time came to a standstill. The God Sacrifice Guard charged forward in a majestic manner, stirring up countless fragments of the starry sky. The Golden Army tore through the starry sky, but they never imagined that right in front of Long Chen, they would be trapped in Long Chen's Forbidden World. For a time, there was a hum as time froze. All the God Sacrifice Guards remained motionless in the starry sky. The destructive impact from the collision had disappeared. But in truth, the God Sacrifice Guard's most crucial move was to charge forward. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. The power that Long Chen had displayed had far exceeded their imaginations. Sacred Ancestor Xueqi believed that this would be a good opportunity, but he never expected that Long Chen would be able to stop it. But that was not the end. In truth, the God Sacrifice Guard possessed terrifying strength. Long Chen's Forbidden World could not hold them for long. Therefore, when the Forbidden World was established, he used slaughter as a brush to draw the life-seizing dragon diagram in the void. In the blink of an eye, the life-seizing dragon diagram attached itself to the Forbidden World. Every single sacrificial god guard's golden body was invaded by the life-seizing dragon diagram. The color of blood spread out, and with every step it took, the sacrificial god guards who were unable to fight back in the Forbidden World dissipated. Their power was reduced, and the power of their laws was also not as great as before. Everyone could only watch as the sacrificial god guards crumbled in front of Long Chen's eyes. Not only did the God Sacrifice Ancestor's vicious laws fail to injure Long Chen had actually easily neutralized it. Even if he had other motives, he had yet to gain any advantage from the start of the battle. This was something that the God Sacrifice Ancestor did not expect. His killing intent was already extremely dense. Does the God Sacrifice Ancestor have any other tricks up his sleeve? Long Chen asked casually as though nothing had happened. After all, he had now become two types of ancestral dragons. Their combined might was indeed greater. Don't celebrate too early. At this moment, the God Sacrifice Ancestor was enraged. He placed the God Sacrifice tome down. The God Sacrifice tome expanded in front of him, gradually growing to about 10 meters. At this moment, the God Sacrifice Ancestor stood on top of the tome. His golden eyes coldly stared at Long Chen. This time he would probably go all out. But after the previous two clashes, Long Chen was still very confident. He was also prepared. At this moment, dense golden runes appeared on the God Sacrifice tome. Thousands of them surrounded the God Sacrifice Ancestor. Those golden runes were born from the God Sacrifice tome and fused into the God Sacrifice Ancestor's body, appearing on his skin. At this moment, the God Sacrifice Ancestor was connected to the God Sacrifice tome. They were inseparable. Chapter 3470. No problem. It's already done. Upon hearing Sacred Ancestor Xueqi's response, Sacrificial God Ancestor could not help but sneer. At that moment, he secretly glanced at Sword Ancestor Yun. In fact, Sword Ancestor Yun was focused on the battle between the two. He did not notice that the true killing intent lay with Sacred Ancestor Xueqi. He had already aimed at Long Chen's two-world origins. At the critical moment, he could instantly take Long Chen's life. Buzz! At that moment, Sacrificial God Ancestor's body was already filled with golden characters. The characters were like living creatures, walking and swimming all over his body. Every word was so bright that it almost blinded his eyes. Now, the Ancestral God Ritual Book was on the verge of exploding. It was likely that all its energy had been accumulated and was waiting for this moment to be unleashed. As expected, at this instant, the Ancestral God Ritual Book and the Ancestral God Ritual Book underwent a shocking change. Divine Book of Faith. A new law, a new height. As a killing blow, this law was clearly not simple. Therefore, when Sacrificial God Ancestor fused with the God's Sacrificial Tome, Long Chen reacted. After all, he had resolved the previous two attacks from Sacrificial God Ancestor. It's my turn to attack. Therefore this time, it was harder for Long Chen to launch an attack. At that moment, the time coiled around his left hand loosened and suddenly expanded, transforming into a huge metal chain. It twisted and danced in the endless cosmos with a monstrous aura. Time Demon Dragon. Under Long Chen's law, time truly transformed into a divine dragon. It became a steel divine dragon, possessing the pinnacle power of time compression. Its speed was incomparably fast. Boom! Under Long Chen's control, the time demon dragon sped through the cosmos. In a short time, it had coiled around the God's Sacrificial Tome and Sacrificial God Ancestor in several layers. But this was only the beginning. What Long Chen wanted was an overwhelming victory. Although the time demon dragon was powerful, it hadn't reached the level that Long Chen wanted. Therefore, in the next moment, he let go of the time demon dragon and grabbed Carnage with both hands. Blood-devouring tyrannical dragon sword prison. The terrifying slaughter rules gave birth to billions of sword chi. Countless blood-colored beams shot up into the sky towards the endless void. At the highest point of the starry sky, the sharp sword chi gathered together and then rained down like a downpour. Rumble! The moment it landed, the billions of blood-devouring Tyrannosaurus dragon sword chi faintly formed the image of a mystical dragon. At this time, the Sacrificial God Ancestor and Sacrificial God Book were still trapped by the time demon dragon. Even the Almanac of Faith's law was interrupted and could not be used. Sacred Ancestor, I'm no match for him. There's no other chance. He's exhausted, so it's time to attack. The Sacrificial God Ancestor had never imagined that his first attack would be so powerful. Forget the bloodthirsty berserk dragon sword prison. Even the time demon dragon had completely locked him down. His natural laws were severed, and he was trapped in a vortex of destruction. All right. In fact, Sacred Ancestor Xueqi also understood that Long Chen's final attack was simply too powerful. It was impossible for Ancestor Sacrificial God to suppress Long Chen and create the best opportunity for him. But in truth, this was the best opportunity. This was the most intense moment of the battle. Everyone was focused on the battle, and no one was paying attention to him. And just as the Sacrificial God Ancestor had said, Long Chen was at his most relaxed when he was about to defeat his opponent. Moreover, he had been constantly fighting, and he had expended a lot of energy. This was definitely the most suitable moment. The heavens had given Sacred Ancestor Xueqi a chance. He inherited the fate of the dragon sacrificial dragon continent from before the epoch. Whatever schemes we used were actually useless against him. We might as well just go straight to his base and kill him. The 9 demon ancestor's opinion was actually approved by some of the ancestor gods. The Heaven Cloud divine ancestor said, logically speaking, both plans were foolproof, but they both failed. The ancestor god alliance is still chasing after the 9 demon ancestor. We don't have much time left. The 9 demon ancestor said, listen to me. Right now, only Long Chen and the first origin sword ancestor are on the draconic sacrificial continent. We will lie in wait and make sure that the primordial war ancestor and the others won't suddenly appear. Then, we will act immediately. With the Heaven Cloud divine ancestor restraining the first origin sword ancestor, divine ancestor Xueqi and I will be able to kill Long Chen at the fastest speed possible. Such a straightforward attack has a higher chance of success. I think it's easier to achieve our goal than coming up with so many complicated schemes. The Heaven Cloud divine ancestor said, indeed. Although the sacrificial god ancestor's plan is safe, the preparation time is too long. It's not as simple and crude as a direct attack. It's very likely that it will be delayed until a time when we can't act. On the other hand, if we lie in wait and launch a sneak attack, the enemy will be out in the open while we are in the dark. It'll be easier to succeed. This was the opinion of the two of them. Since 2 of the 3 of them had the same opinion, divine ancestor Xueqi had nothing else to say. He said, all right, then let's complete the mission in one go. But first, we must make sure that only sword ancestor Yuan and Long Chen are on the draconic sacrificial continent. Chapter 3472. 10 days passed, then half a month. Sword ancestor Yuan's chess game was calmer than Long Chen. They were above the eternal god domain and below the eternal steel divine diagram. Below them was the prosperous draconic sacrificial continent. Excluding the creator gods, it was the most prosperous place in the myriad worlds. How tolerant! Long Chen couldn't help laughing after losing another game. She probably lost her courage because I'm here. Maybe she's nearby, sword ancestor Yuan said. Long Chen thought about it and agreed. But for some reason, he still felt a sense of danger. He suddenly had an idea and said, sword ancestor, do you think that the demon ancestor 9 is not the only one who wants me dead at Mount Buzhou? Why do you say that? Long Chen thought for a moment and said, that day when I fought with ancestor sacrificial god, I suddenly felt ancestor sacrificial god's killing intent. His eyes seemed to want to take my life, but I have come into contact with him during the Doomsday War. I don't feel that he is such a person. When he invited me to fight, his attitude was too intense, not like the last time I met him. Sword ancestor Yuan gripped his sword. Now that you mention it, I find it strange too. I met him then, and he seemed to be a calm person. He wouldn't be so intense. Long Chen thought for a moment, then said, I don't know if you believe me, but I have a feeling that sacred ancestor Xueqi is acting a little strange this time. His eyes seem to be hiding some sort of emotion. I didn't pay it much attention before, but there's something wrong with ancestor sacrificial god. I wonder if that hidden emotion is killing intent. I believe you. Sword ancestor Yuan nodded at Long Chen's words. In truth, demon ancestor 9 and ancestor Donghua have no reason to kill you, but they did and fled. Saint ancestor Xueqi and ancestor sacrificial have no reason to kill you, but since ancestor Donghua is in such a state, it's normal for them to want to kill you. Long Chen smiled bitterly. As for the reason, it's hard to guess. In any case, I can't figure it out. If they all attack and are caught, then the truth will be revealed. That's true. Right at this moment, the two of them looked at each other and felt the crisis of death. Without needing to communicate, they knew that the enemy had made their move. They had chosen a very suitable time, but the problem was that they didn't know that the eternal steel divine diagram was hidden on the dragon sacrificial continent. There had to be a reason why the primordial battle ancestor could hide the eternal steel divine diagram. Ding! With a tearing sound, the entire dragon sacrificial continent instantly fell into darkness. That was because the eternal steel diagram had changed from its hidden state to its steel fortress state. A quaint iron arrow pierced the divine pattern of eternal steel right above Long Chen's head. If not for the divine pattern of eternal steel blocking it, the arrow would have probably pierced through Long Chen's slaughter and time and killed Long Chen. Sacred ancestor Xueqi's arrow. When Long Chen looked up, the arrow was already disappearing in the sky, and a hole about a meter deep had been pierced through the eternal steel divine diagram. Even sacred ancestor Ho Yi's arrow had failed to penetrate the diagram. Here it comes. Let Pangu and Hunkin ancestor gods play this game together. Sword ancestor Yi Yuan drew out his world origin, divine sword Yi Yuan, and rushed out of the eternal steel divine diagram to attack his opponent. He was very straightforward. Long Chen had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Sacred ancestor Ho Yi's arrow had confirmed his previous guess. Indeed, sacred ancestor Ho Yi also wanted his life. In the blink of an eye, aside from sword ancestor Yi Yuan and sacred ancestor Skycloud, everyone else was above Long Chen. Long Chen was only separated from them by the eternal steel divine diagram, which was 10 meters thick. If not for the eternal steel divine diagram, these two would definitely be able to tear Long Chen to pieces before Long Chen's reinforcements arrived. Die! With the 9 demon ancestors' shrill cry, an overwhelming amount of world source energy and laws attacked the eternal steel divine diagram. Boom! 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 The entire eternal steel divine diagram trembled to a terrifying degree. Once the protective diagram was broken, Long Chen, the entire dragon sacrificial continent, and the trillions of living beings would be destroyed in a short time. After all, sacred ancestor Ho Yi and the others only had one chance. The eternal steel divine diagram rapidly collapsed. Sword ancestor Yi Yuan needed 15 minutes to destroy it, but the dozen or so ancestor gods before him, especially sacred ancestor Ho Yi and the 9 demon ancestor, only had 1/3 of that time. 1/3 wasn't much longer. One could see that the eternal steel divine diagram was only 9 meters thick, then 8 meters, 7 meters. Of course, the eternal steel divine diagram was constantly regenerating and recovering. In any case, all they could see was the dazzling laws and the terrifying, deafening rumbles. Such an attack would still affect the dragon sacrificial continent to a certain extent. But even so, sword ancestor Yi Yuan and Long Chen both wore faint smiles on their faces. In reality, the other party's frenzied attacks were meaningless. Ever since the eternal steel divine diagram appeared, Long Chen was destined to not lose. Bloodthirsty tyrant dragon sword prison. Long Chen killed his own attack from within the eternal steel divine diagram. This was the moment when the 9 demon ancestor approached to attack. Long Chen's billions of sword chi swept up a blood-colored sword chi divine dragon, which instantly collided with the 9 demon ancestor. Long Chen. The 9 demon ancestor let out an enraged scream, but she still couldn't avoid being ambushed by Long Chen's sword chi. She was badly mutilated. Her eyes were bloodshot as she retreated to the periphery. She saw that Long Chen was right in front of her, but she couldn't kill him. This feeling was too depressing and manic. It wasn't just her. Even sacred ancestor Ho Yi was going crazy. Forbidden world. Long Chen maintained a calm expression. Separated by the eternal steel divine diagram, he used a law to descend on sacred ancestor Ho Yi. In order to destroy the eternal steel divine diagram, sacred ancestor Ho Yi was exhausted. Now that he was under the control of the forbidden world, he was still imprisoned for 3 breaths of time under Long Chen's powerful law of time. Without the attacks of sacred ancestor Ho Yi and the 9 demon ancestor, the eternal steel divine diagram regained its 1 meter thickness. This 1 meter thickness left Long Chen's opponents in utter despair. Accept your fate. This time, you have lost, Long Chen said indifferently as he retracted his massacre and scrutinized his opponents. You have to die. Sacred ancestor Ho Yi fired another arrow at the eternal steel divine diagram. It caused a terrifying tremor, but it only reduced the thickness by half a meter. There was still more than 6 meters left. The 9 demon ancestor's face was twisted with madness. She grabbed her black needle and stabbed it at Long Chen's eyes. But no matter how crazy she was, she couldn't break through the eternal steel divine diagram in a short time. Of course, it wouldn't be difficult for them to break through the eternal steel divine diagram if they were given some time. The problem was that they didn't have the time to do so. Why are you putting up such a pointless struggle? If you can obediently explain why you want to kill me, Perhaps the Ancestor God Alliance will spare you. Even though he was facing an attack that could destroy him, he didn't even blink. In his eyes, the group before him was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Because you deserve to die. The 9 demon ancestor shrieked. In front of the eternal steel divine diagram, she was like a madwoman. Forget it. Your chance is gone. Before subduing them, Long Chen couldn't be bothered to converse with them. After all, he wouldn't be able to get anything out of them. At that moment, he opened the Death Realm Dragon Gate behind the Ancestor Gods. The Death Realm Dragon Gate split open, revealing 2 Ancestor Gods. One of them was tall and stalwart, emanating an aura of wilderness. He looked ancient, majestic, and vast. He was the creator of Pangu continent, the Ancestor God of the 5th era, Pangu. The other one could be a tiger, a swimming fish, and a rock. He had 3 divine bodies and limitless divine energy. Naturally, he was Ancestor God Hun Kuen, an ancestral beast from the Eastern Galaxy. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.